Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2025 WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and somehow we are just days away from WWE Backlash, the company's first premium live event since WrestleMania 41, which feels like it happened a week ago. But nevertheless, the Silver King Adam Silverstein, vintage Chris Vanini, we are here to break down every single match on that card, storylines, predictions, and where WWE is going to go after that. Of course, in addition to WWE Backlash, which is only a 5-match card, Silver King and Vintage will be talking all things Raw and SmackDown from the last week in WWE. So you do not want to miss a single second of today's episode. Before we get into everything, I want to remind you to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You get full-length audio of our shows and full-length video interviews there as well at Getting Overcast on YouTube. And hit us up on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. So again, we have a ton to talk about today when it comes to WWE. The main event, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and your WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview. They're all coming up. And there are timestamps in the episode description wherever you're listening to this podcast if you do need to jump ahead to that WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview in case you're listening to this show late in the week or right before the premium live event on Saturday.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And Chris, I will welcome you to the show with a couple, let's call them GOZ instead of TMZ type of headlines right here off the top. Charlotte Flair attended an NBA playoff game with Alex Rodriguez, yes, A-Rod, and bumped into Shane McMahon backstage at that game, all caught on camera, pretty wild. And then on the other side, Big E announced his engagement to Chris Yim, who is the sister of Mia Yim. And not only is that incredible for E, who has been open, kind of wondering in the past whether he would ever find a significant other. Congratulations to him for that. It may also be incredible for us because what this means is that Big E and Keith Lee are going to be brothers-in-law sooner than later.
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want.
And who knows what kind of shenanigans or hijinks or content might come out of that, even if it's completely outside the ring. But seriously, congratulations to Big E and Charlotte. You're with a former Yankee, so I got my eye on you as well.
I saw the Big E news. Congratulations to him. The Charlotte stuff I had not seen. That's always interesting. We didn't have a chance to mention it on this podcast because it went by so quickly and overlapped. Mm-hmm. Your New York Knicks beat my Detroit Pistons in the first round of the NBA playoffs. We didn't really have time to set up a bet or anything because it was right after Mania and we were loaded with stuff. Heck of a series. Major props to Jalen Brunson. And you guys won game one against the Celtics, so good job.
We did. That was a crazy game Monday night, which led to the Silver King watching Raw immensely late in the evening and kind of getting a late start on our recording Tuesday for this program, but very proud of my Knicks. It has been a great run through the playoffs so far. I actually like the Pistons as a team. Couple individuals on that side I don't like, and I thought the way Detroit treated Jalen Brunson was rather unfair when, there's far worse players and worse offenders in the league, and he ultimately made you guys pay for it, which was music to my ears and, I guess, eyes. What would that phrase go? Music to my ears, movie to my eyes, I guess? I don't know, but it was fantastic.
I've never heard that. Look, yeah, he does flop a lot. He does sell very well.
He sells.
As the language goes.
Very different than flopping.
But he's also a really good player. It's why he doesn't have to flop. But it was a great series. The Pistons are great when they're heels, when they play dirty, when people hate them. Mm-hmm. You called them jobbers on Twitter.
They are.
Somehow didn't think that was an insult.
It's not.
Nevertheless, you guys won.
There's places for heels, faces, superstars, and jobbers in this league and in professional wrestling. And the Pistons, as comprised, are lesser stars than the Knicks. And I don't think there's really much of a disagreement to that. And they played beyond their means this season and in that series. They deserved every single thing they got. They played extremely well. But there's a reason the Knicks were favored because they were the superstars. They had bigger names. Simple as that. That's all I meant by it. It wasn't really an insult.
I'm excited about the future for the first time in more than a decade.
You should be, but I'm not sure about that coach. He talk about, you want to criticize Brunson for selling. That dude complained his ass off all
that's what
game,
I'm saying, though.
every game for 6 games.
Holy
shit.
That's what the Pistons do when they win. They are you don't like them.
I don't remember what was what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name?
Larry Brown. And
Larry Brown. I don't remember Larry Brown complaining like that.
No, but he also left after 2 years. So
yeah, he also won an NBA title. So let's give him respect where it's due.
Coach.
He was a great coach. WWE Money in the Bank is set for June 7th, with tickets going on sale this week, meaning it's a 1-month turnaround to try and sell out an arena in Los Angeles, which is odd when you know the ticket prices are going to be crazy high. Now, WWE also announced Night of Champions as the lone Blood Money in the Sand event for June 28th in Saudi Arabia. Now, there was a false report about there not being a Saudi show in 2025. The real news is that there's only going to be one because the 2026 Royal Rumble is going to be held there, which means there could be as many as 3 in 2026. That remains to be seen. WWE also announced Crown Jewel for Perth, Australia on October 11th. And as part of that release, it was confirmed the 2 champion versus champion matches, for one for the men, one for the women, will continue on that show. There's a lot to unpack with all of this. Let's start with the key item, the event decisions. 1 year after finally bringing back King and Queen of the Ring and making the event meaningful the way it was booked, that's now apparently gone for 2025. In its place is Night of Champions, which is literally a nothing show. It is meaningless as a title of a show. Then you have Crown Jewel, a show whose name and concept only makes sense for Saudi, given that's where the stupid belts stay all year. You're putting
you don't recognize the Crown Prince of Australia?
You're putting that in Perth. Now, granted, you weren't going to do Bad Blood again without Hell in a Cell, but why is Crown Jewel going to Australia? Why is the dumb, roundly criticized concept being continued when King and Queen of the Ring was roundly praised and does not need to be held in Saudi? So, Chris, I don't understand any of this on any level.
I don't like it. I do wonder if the fact that we already had the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber create number 1 contenders, that if we're doing it a third time in 6 months, essentially, is if they thought it was maybe overkill of any
That's
kind.
their fault for making those winners number 1 contenders. They never had to do that.
Trying to think of a reason.
Yeah.
Maybe the Saudis didn't like the King and Queen concept. I don't know, but we really enjoyed it last year. It was a big deal. They didn't even add till halfway through the tournament that it became a number 1 contendership situation, but it set up Gunther to win the world championship. Like, it worked. I liked it. So I'm very disappointed to see that.
Nia Jax also, don't forget. They both won, and they thrived coming out of the King and Queen of the Ring. Fingers crossed, if they're not going to do it as a PLE, okay, that they're doing those tournaments on television this summer. Because even if they're not for number 1 contenderships, those crowns, they shouldn't be forgotten about. They did such a good job bringing it back. We have been begging them to actually not just bring it back, but invest in King and Queen of the Ring. They finally did. And you cannot tell me 1 year later it's gone. I will not accept that. Now, the other notable topic coming out of these announcements is that starting this week, WWE looks to be holding 6 main roster special events in 56 days, spanning 9 weeks. That's 1 event every 9.3 days. Does that not sound ridiculous to anyone else? Here's the schedule. May 10th, Backlash. 2 weeks later, on May 24th, Saturday night's main event. 2 weeks later, on June 7th, Money in the Bank. 3 weeks later, on June 28th, Night of Champions. And then 1 week later, on July 5th, Evolution 2, which is oddly not announced given tickets must be sold, but it seems just to be a matter of time. And there's even a rumor that Saturday night's main event, the next one, is going to be held in July. And if that transpires, that would be 7 events in 10 weeks instead of 6 events in 9 weeks. I understand WWE wanting to fit in as many special shows as possible before football season begins. But this, Chris, is frankly ridiculous on the surface, and it seems disastrous from a creative standpoint. It is one thing to book 5.5 hours of TV every week and then one premium live event every month. It is quite another to book 2 to 3 hours of premium content on top of that every 9 days. I have no idea how they're going to succeed.
And it's not like we want to like complain that we're getting too much wrestling because we like wrestling, but it's like you said, it's trusting the ability to tell enough stories in that time, because we're going to get into it later on this episode. The build to Backlash has not been great because they've only had 3 weeks since WrestleMania.
Right.
There's only you can only tell so much of a story in that amount of time, and you're going to be doing this for months. On top of that, you're also expecting to sell a football stadium 2 days for SummerSlam in New York. Like, at some point, these things stop feeling special. And I am worried that they will run out of ideas or not have enough build to make that all the best that it can be.
Yeah, whether Evolution does or does not happen, and I'm of the belief that it will and the understanding that it will. SummerSlam, a 2-night show, is, I believe, the first weekend of August. And please check that while I'm speaking so I know that I'm not completely out of my mind here. I believe it's the first weekend of August, like the 2nd and 3rd or something like that. So
correct, second and 3rd.
Okay, so if Evolution happens, that's 1 month from Evolution, 5 weeks from Night of Champions to build a 2-night show that you're saying you want to be on par with WrestleMania. That is hugely problematic when in the prior, 3 months, you have 6 different specials. It's one thing if you had a monthly pay-per-view and then it just so happens you had 4 to 5 weeks to build for SummerSlam, but you could space stuff out enough where that would be okay. You could do some tag team matches. You can make it work. But to do 6 special shows, possibly a 7th, if there's a Saturday night's main event on July 12th, and then have SummerSlam on the back end of that, a 2-night show on top of that, I just have no idea how they're going to do it. And by the way, WWE also has an NXT premium live event and the NXT AAA crossover Worlds Collide in that same span. So, I mean, I don't care about the work for us. Like, we're here to cover wrestling and WWE and AEW and all that, and we're going to cover all these events. We like having special episodes. Those are the ones you listen to the most. All of you who are listening to this right now. But in terms of the creative and our enjoyment and the quality of television, there is no way that it can be high when you're trying to do that much in such a short period of time.
Yeah. We've wondered for over the past year, are they going to oversaturate a bit?
It feels like they are.
It's concerning. And if that July 12th Saturday night's main event happens, that is the same day as AEW All In, which I will be going to. I just bought tickets today. My brother's coming into town. Should be fun, but it's going to be hard to follow all this stuff.
That would be extremely difficult. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention on this is the expectation of Evolution being booked. It's curious to me because it opens a legitimate question about what Night of Champions is going to look like. Women have been getting more and more matches in time on the Saudi cards by year, and they're getting better reactions year by year as well. So there would be no reason to purposefully leave them off the card. Yet the last time WWE ran Evolution, it was because there were no women on that card. So yes. I just don't understand the decision-making and the timing of that event if there's going to be women on the Night of Champions card, which I cannot imagine there wouldn't be. So I just wanted to kind of say that.
I have to imagine the Saudis are sort of asking for a certain kind of show, right? Like
sure.
They probably play a role. I mean, they got the greatest Royal Rumble all those years ago. I'm guessing they didn't like King of the Ring. Maybe they want Night of Champions because it'll be better. They like the idea of all the titles.
Why would you just not call that Crown Jewel though, and make Night of Champions the event for Perth? You know,
I don't know. It's different than all the other shows to the point where I'm imagining the Saudis probably play a role in exactly what it's.
They do. They absolutely do. Yes.
So I don't know. Maybe they liked Night of Champions, but there has been a Night of Champions over there.
Yeah,
right?
They changed it. It was I think it was going to be, if memory serves, it was going to be King and Queen of the Ring. They made it Night of Champions because they decided that Roman Reigns would celebrate his 1000th day as champion.
Yes,
and they switched it pretty late in the process, and then they did King and Queen of the Ring last year.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
so weird. I don't know.
Right, a couple more items here. The first WWE superstars to wrestle in AAA in Mexico will be Los Garza at Triple Mania excuse my pronunciation, Regia on June 15th. It's 1 week after the Worlds Collide show between NXT and AAA, which is going to be in Los Angeles. Angel has worked for AAA before. Berto has not, so it will mark his debut. Just wanted to mention that. This was another week, Chris, overall. When we look at Raw and SmackDown, I thought Raw kicked the shit out of SmackDown. Friday night was actually an interesting show in that I didn't particularly enjoy it as a sum of its parts, but segment by segment, as I broke it down for the good, the bad, and the ugly and everything else that we do, I struggled to actually find much actively wrong with it. There was just an immense lack of star power on that show right now. John Cena, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Bianca Belair, even Charlotte Flair. All of them were missing from that episode simultaneously. Those are like 5 of your top 8 stars. But then you couple that with only one big part of the show actually building new content for Backlash. And the creative on Friday nights, it continues to massively lack excitement compared to Raw, even NXT. And I thought Friday night was a completely forgettable episode. Again, not a bad episode, but totally just meh.
Yeah, there was nothing bad on it, but nothing great on it, is how I viewed it. While Raw, once again, had an elite storyline open and close the show with your biggest stars on the show, and it was terrific. I think I graded Raw an A- and SmackDown like a B- C+ type of show.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, if we were grading episodes, I think I'd probably agree. One other notable failure from Friday night. So they did a TLC retrospective package that was unsurprisingly strong as a video package. Unfortunately, none of the teams, including the Street Profits, who, won and retained their titles, were on the show Friday night. This was a huge miss by creative, not finding a way to capitalize off the amazing reaction to that match. In fact, you can argue that those guys maybe should have opened the damn show. But to have a 3-hour SmackDown where little happened, as we just discussed, yet they didn't utilize the clear opportunity to take advantage of the best moment the tag team division as a whole has had in 2 years since the night 1 main event of WrestleMania 39. That is a massive error, especially because, and Chris, I think it's okay for me to say this, I heard from someone on the SmackDown side on Monday who told us how much time and effort everyone put into that match to make sure it went off with a bang. So to work that hard last week and then not be rewarded last Friday with a strong, meaningful follow-up, I just thought that was seriously disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I just agree with everything you said. It was such a great moment, such a great spot to close the show. To not have anything to follow up in person, it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Like everybody was into it. And it's something that has consistently happened under Triple H for 2+ years now, which is like, there's a big moment and then you don't get an immediate follow-up when you're craving it. And then that interest starts to wane a little bit the more you do that.
It was a complete unforced error. And I can honestly say, this Friday night on SmackDown, I went into the show actively wanting to see how they would follow that up, and they just didn't do it. And how many times have we gone into a SmackDown with the tag team division top of mind? Very rare.
Yeah, exactly. Agree.
The expectation, by the way, is that SmackDown will be going back to 2 hours at some point in June. How that will work, how that's going to be explained, that remains to be seen. But as we shared months ago when this was announced, it was never going to be permanently at 3 hours. Whether the show improves because of that, who the hell knows? But right now, the writing difference between Raw and SmackDown, there is a gulf between them. One show is hot and modern and fresh, and the other just feels like you're walking through mud.
Well, part of it's writing, but part of it's simply the star power.
Yeah,
you don't have Roman or Cody or Cena, on the show right now.
But the women's division is less exciting. The men's mid-card is less exciting, largely.
Yeah. But it starts with your biggest stars, and SmackDown for a while now has been led by Cody and part-timers. And when you don't have Cody, then you don't have much.
Yeah, and it's none of the performers' fault. I just think they need better content, honestly. That's where it lands for me. I think the writing team needs to do a better job. Now, we'll move over to Raw briefly. I've seen a lot of mixed reaction to the Omaha crowd Monday night. Some saying it was great, others saying it was terrible. I watched it closely. I thought it was dog shit for the first 2 hours, but came alive over the last 30 minutes, almost out of nowhere. Granted, the main event was arguably the best part of the show, but reactions were very weak and people were sitting on their hands for the vast majority of the episode, which drastically affected the home viewing experience. I feel like people are kind of conflating the last 30 minutes with the other 2 hours where they barely popped, even for some really popular names. There's going to be occasions on this show where I point that out, but I just wanted to say that off the top. And something else I thought was pretty notable about Raw on Monday is that it was Irish as hell. Like successively on the show, it went like JD McDonough match, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria segment, Finn Balor backstage, Sheamus match. Like 20% of the roster is Irish, and all of them are great. So there's zero complaint about that. But it is interesting how they're all on one show, and I don't believe any Irish flavor on SmackDown. In fact, it's all Scottish.
That's true. Wasn't there a period where all the luchadors or the Hispanic wrestlers were on one show? They're all in storylines.
LWO and Legado del Fantasma were at one point.
Yeah.
But then they added more luchadors and they split them up and so on.
Yeah. But shout out to Matt Rule, Nebraska head coach, and some of the players there at the game at the show. Yeah, I thought it was a mixed crowd, but they got up at the end for the biggest stuff, which is, the bare minimum of what you want to see. That main event on Raw deserved a great crowd. And in that moment, it got it.
It did.
And credit to Seth Rollins and Jey Uso for getting them there as well.
No question about that. And another positive that I want to point out from the Raw crowd on Monday night, we have a new contender to our best sign of 2025 list. The sign read, El Grande Americano is a DEI hire. So that, for me, Chris, goes into our top 3, along with the John Cena Chairman Mao sign and the one about WWE tickets ruining someone financially. I forgot the exact wording of that, but I believe that was in our top 3 as well. So I wasn't really planning to keep like a sign of the year list or anything like that, but I think we have 3. If we get 2 more, then we can possibly have it as a 2025 Getting Over Award, aka
the Meaties.
That allows me to transition into a reminder that here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Wanted to shout out M. Stokes, our new monthly subscriber. We appreciate your financial support, and we hope that more of you will consider financially supporting the continuation of this ad-free podcast, Getting Over. M. Stokes, we acknowledge you.
Acknowledge. Big acknowledgement right there.
Acknowledge.
All right, Chris, still a ton of show left. The WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview will serve as our final segment, of course, but we're going to break down everything else that happened across Raw and SmackDown, and we're going to start by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
So Jey Uso opened Raw, and let me just ask you this right off the top. Am I alone thinking it's kind of lame how they pre-select kids to walk with him into the arena and then pre-select others for him to stop and yeet with as he goes down the stairs? To me, it has taken an entrance that felt organic and made it, I guess, less special, kind of an eye roll. Like, maybe the best way I can express it is that the whole yeeting and Jey Uso gimmick felt like something originally geared toward young adults, and it has instead shifted to children.
Well, I mean, you kind of need them to pre-select kids. I don't want Jey Uso just grabbing kids at random. Parents might be concerned. I don't know about that, especially with minors. You probably need to get a lot of clearance as much as possible to do that. It has probably shifted toward kids because the kids are really into it, and the whole crowd is really into it. And Jey Uso still getting one more time chance to do multiple of his stuff. I am ultimately very much a net positive on the yeeting entrance. Yes, it takes up the first 10 minutes of the show and not much happens, but I've said it many times. You look at the crowd, you see a bunch of people doing something and being involved in something together instead of having their phones out.
Right.
And to me, it's just a collective experience that is so hard to find. You were at the Masters. They don't let people in there with their phones.
Special, man.
And it creates a different environment. And I just continue to like seeing that, as opposed to when Roman comes out and we get the camera shots of everybody just putting their phone up, you know?
They have their phone
So
in one hand and their one up in the other hand, and they're trying to kind of see through him while looking at the phone. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, the Yeet entrance with everybody involved, I think is still really cool.
Yeah, I want to clarify. I'm not saying the entrance isn't cool or that they should stop. I'm not saying anything negative about it. I'm just a little concerned that once you take something that is hitting with young adults, teenagers, and you then gear it toward kids, it stops being cool and then it stops becoming popular. That's my concern for Jay and for Yeet. It's not that I, as a viewer now, don't want to see it. I'm still happy that Jay gets to do it. The arenas still look great. I'm just concerned that the coolness factor is waning once you have, 6-year-olds start doing stuff. Or not start doing it, but featuring them is really what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'll move on. The first action Monday night, as you kind of alluded to, it happened 11 whole minutes into the show when Paul Heyman interrupted Jay somehow looking like they had the same color skin. I guess that spray tan didn't fade as quickly as I anticipated last week. Jay stopped Paul cold, saying he had balls getting in the ring with him, given what he did to his family, referring to Roman Reigns. I guess F Sami Zayn being your family too. Didn't you just say Sami was your family backstage? All right, I digress. Heyman got great heat ranting on Reigns and CM Punk, saying Roman turned on him for no reason when he was just backing up his best friend. Heyman then fully snapped to a degree I cannot do justice on this breakdown, but what he did was he laid out the entire logical case on why Reigns is the one who screwed him, not the other way around. The dude turned, well, not red, I guess, like maroonish. I'm sure the thought went through your head like it did mine. I really hope his heart is okay. He did have a great line saying Reigns was basically a stray dog on the island of irrelevancy, that, of course, he turned into the tribal chief on the island of relevancy. No one really popped for it, but I thought it was a nails line. Heyman said being a world champion is about power and control, yet Jay has no idea how to wield it. Seth Rollins not only knows how to do that, he must have that power. Paul then gave Jay grace, which was actually a theme during the episode. He allowed him to choose the night he loses the title to a guy who is deserving as the number one contender. Jay immediately backed Heyman into a corner with by far the most passion he's shown since 2 weeks before WrestleMania, and he made the match for the main event. Now, last week we talked about Jay looking good, holding the title aesthetically. At the end of this segment, Chris, he looked and sounded like a world heavyweight champion. The energy and attitude that he showed, you could feel it through the screen. The arena came alive for him when he backed up Heyman. It helped that Jay and the world title were actually put in the main storyline of Raw, which they had not been part of in what feels like months, both Jay and the title itself. And then Heyman individually was incredible in this promo, an absolute masterclass. And I know I used that word last week to describe Joe Tessitore's call of the TLC match. Well, it also applies to Heyman here. I was surprised Omaha didn't respond better to individual lines that he said, but Paul losing his mind like that while being completely logical in his contention, I'm not crazy, you're all crazy. That was awesome. The man told no lies, and I love how WWE's heels in 2025 are all logical. It wasn't a 10 out of 10 segment, probably an 8 out of 10, but it was a damn strong start to Raw on Monday night.
This won't go down as one of like Heyman's best promos or most memorables, but it was maybe the most intense we've ever seen him. Like, I could not believe how like angry he was getting. The camera zooming in on his face, making me think something was going to happen off screen. But he was just going and going and going and giving us the explanation, the full explanation that we didn't get a week ago. And so it was good to follow up on that. And it made me wonder if Roman is going to continue to be away for a bit. And so they kind of had to have Heyman say this now as opposed to say it to Roman's face or something. Or maybe not. I don't know. But I'm glad we didn't have to like sit and wait and forever about like, why did Heyman do that? No, he went through the whole story of everything. He laid it all out and in his own way made sense. It was good. I love the line. If it was something like, I'm always the scumbag, not this time, I'm in the right, which was a great way to put like, yeah, I've made mistakes before, but not this time. This time I'm doing it the right way. Like that was a really great way to put it. Jay looks great with the championship, like you said, not only holding it up, but around his waist too. It looks good on him.
Yeah.
It's working. The look is working. And I enjoyed that after Heyman's rant, Jay basically said, "What does this have to do with me?"
Yeah.
Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, hey, oh, they're giving us the full Roman explanation, but Jay's just here. He's not really involved. And so I'm glad they acknowledged that.
Yeah.
And then, so it was an opportunity for Heyman to give you the explanation of something else and then transition it into this and get into, you and Seth Rollins. So really, really well done. Terrific, hot, great opening segment.
I did wonder why Heyman at no point actively walked over to Jay and congratulated him and shook his hand, because they were part of a faction for a long period of time. And Heyman's contention kind of coming into this promo was, hey, you're not a bad guy. I'm not a bad guy, but I have a reason for being here, and that's to get a title match for my client. I just thought it was the only person or people that have congratulated Jay on winning his title so far are his brother and Sami Zayn. Nothing from Roman Reigns, his cousin, nothing from Paul Heyman, who was in the faction with him, and nothing from really any of the other baby faces. Like Cody Rhodes, obviously he hasn't been on television, but still, he had all this support in the lead up and very little support kind of coming out of it now that he's champion. And you could say, well, in kayfabe, that's because everyone's jealous and they want the title. But in reality, it's crazy that we didn't get a moment with Roman, that Paul didn't at least say a singular line to that end here. I feel like that's been lacking a little bit.
I mean, you could say it's just him, Oos. It's right there in the song. Yeah, I mean, part of it's because all of his friends are not around right now. I mean, Cody's out, Roman's out.
Right. It might be circumstantial.
Yeah. But I have another thought on Jay that kind of ties into this too, which I will save for after what else happened on Raw.
Okay. And just as a point of order, because we got multiple tweets about it, yes, we did add a clip from Paul Heyman's promo to our soundboard for the long term.
I'm right! I'm right! I'm in the right!
Chris, we're going to get a lot of use out of that one.
Yeah, it's not like we have any arguments or disagreements that'll come in handy.
Exactly. So later on Raw, Heyman found Rollins backstage, praising him for coming up with the trap that Jay fell into when Seth left. Heyman then explained to Braun Breaker how Reigns and Punk prepared weeks to fight Rollins at Mania, yet Seth beat them both in the same match. He praised Jay for tapping out Gunther and put him over as no slouch as champion, but he explained how Jay being distracted by Logan Paul makes him a sitting duck for their entire group to pounce on. And I know the entire point of this was to lay out the specifics of the story and all the beats on Monday night for the audience at home, while simultaneously giving Jay a boost as a legitimate champion in the eyes of Heyman, someone who would certainly know what a legitimate champion looks like. But it did simultaneously make Braun look like an absolute idiot who needed the simplest concepts spelled out to him. Did it not?
Yeah, kinda. But that's also, I mean, that is his role right now. He's the big brute muscle.
But he's not dumb.
And Seth is the architect and Paul Heyman's the explainer. And so, yes, you have to explain it for the crowd. And so you just kind of lean into a couple of tropes. I don't think Braun's stupid, but I was fine with it.
I'm just saying in the segment, he kind of came off as if he was. Heyman needed to break it down in layman's terms for him. Do you understand what's really happening tonight? And Braun's like, not really. It seemed like he was representing the audience, which is okay.
Right.
And that's why he did that. But it wasn't necessarily the best look for Braun. I almost wish he had done it to a backstage worker. Heyman was so proud of himself. He grabbed someone, hey, you see what I just did? Let me explain to you why I'm so genius. And maybe he said it to them instead of Braun. But or if Austin Theory was part of their group and he was in that dumb kind of himbo role, then that would have made sense. But that's not Braun's character. So I just wanted to say that. This segment, by the way, Chris, was a microcosm of Monday Night's show in that there were a lot more backstage story building and advancing segments than usual. They were needed because some of the matches were not strongly developed ahead of the episode, but it worked and it was a more holistic experience. You and I really appreciate the world building that WWE does and used to do really in 2024, not so much in 2025. I felt this episode and segments like this were a breath of fresh air that we had just not really gotten on TV recently.
Completely agree. It's one of the things we loved when Triple H took over was we got a lot of that kind of stuff, and it just it makes the whole show feel alive. And it's why Raw has felt better than SmackDown recently.
No question. So the main event of the show was the World Heavyweight Championship, Jay defending his title against Rollins. It did not feel like a title match when the bell initially rang. Seth yeeted himself over the announce table on a Jay Tope Suicida. Rollins answered with one of his own later before Jay nailed him with an anti-air super kick. This is awesome chants rang out. It was the second loudest pop of the night at the time the chant happened. Rollins stopped the spear with a kick, hit a buckle bomb, but missed a frog splash before countering a spear into a pedigree midair for a false finish and a holy shit chant. Exactly what happened with Roman Reigns previously. Jay ducked the stomp. Seth avoided a sleeper hold, but Jay came back with a spear for a false finish. Jay kicked Braun off the apron into the prime thing. That allowed Rollins to catch him with the superplex and Falcon Arrow combination, plus a stomp for a false finish. Michael Cole sold it as Rollins not getting all of the stomp before there was even the 1-2-3 count. It looked like a normal stomp to me. Fans went nuts. Just as Rollins commiserated with Breaker, Zayn's music hit. He attacked out of the crowd. Jay caught Rollins with a super kick, spear, and Uso splash for an exceptional false finish. Sammy got the crowd chanting, only for Braun to spear the life out of him ringside and then kind of slide himself under the ring hidden. When Jay checked on Sammy, Braun reappeared, speared Jay ringside. Rollins hit a stomp back inside, only for CM Punk to show up with the steel chair. He murked both heels. The referee never called for the bell, and the bell never rang. We obviously know it was a disqualification with Rollins winning. At least it should be. But remember when that happened like 3 weeks in a row last year and we were losing our minds that WWE was not stopping matches? Well, they hadn't done it in like probably 9 months, but they did it here. I hate when they forget to do that. There was a great close-up of Jay at the end of Raw with him kind of coming to the realization that he never lost the title, but nearly did. The key was the crowd going absolutely crazy for Punk showing up unexpected like that in the final moments on Monday night. This was an exceptional, classically booked TV main event. Attitude era vibes with Punk as Stone Cold Steve Austin coming in for the finish to save the babyface underdog champion and get his licks in. Very much like Jay as almost a Mick Foley and Punk as Steve Austin. This blew away the Jay Gunther match from WrestleMania. And while Rollins did carry Jay a little bit, it served as a reminder that we said this before WrestleMania. Jay can level up his game and serve as a perfectly fine B-side against an A-side competitor. There were some legitimate false finishes here that got the crowd going wild. There was one time I thought there was a good chance that Jay was retaining, and there was another time I thought there was a good chance Rollins was winning the title. Right at the very end, it was like, oh, wow, he's about to win the title. And then, of course, CM Punk comes out. But Chris, they accomplished so much here, okay? Fans saw Jay level up as champion. Now we visually have confirmation that he can go toe-to-toe with the best in the company. His win over Gunther was not a fluke. Breaker proved his worth alongside Rollins. Seth basically had the title run, if not for Punk. Fans stopped cheering for the heels, and they stopped singing Rollins' song. They are firmly bad guys now. Heels who get completely booed and jeered both in Heyman's promo to open the show and in this match. Not having Rollins out there by himself to get serenaded was genius because you badly want these guys to be real heels. Heyman at one point even tried to get the crowd to serenade Rollins during the match, and they flat out refused to do it. I loved seeing that. Punk and Zayn, obviously, they're aligned against the heels, with Sammy clearly serving as a placeholder for Roman, who just cannot be bothered to show up for work after WrestleMania. Surely, Sammy's going to be part of some type of six-man match. Perhaps most importantly, space was created between Seth and Jay, so they do not need to rehash this match until it is ultimately time for Rollins to win the title, probably at or around SummerSlam. And it gave us a great hook into television next week. 4.25 stars and an A for the match, but A+ booking for a TV main event. It set the crowd home happy, and it put over a new babyface champion better than they did at WrestleMania and better than they have in the 3 weeks that followed.
This was picture perfect TV pro wrestling. Like the way everything was set up from the beginning to then lead you into the main event of the show. And I cannot say enough good things about this. You said a lot of them, but chief among them, Jay can work. He can wrestle. This was much better than the Gunther match. They did a lot of things in this match that they didn't do in the Gunther match that we thought they should have at WrestleMania. So they leaned into the speed of things a bit more here. I thought the Jay spear into the Rollins pedigree was better here than the one Seth had against Roman.
Ooh.
I think they just timed it up better.
I don't know.
It happened to just work out. It's really, really difficult to pull off. And Jay's just kind of a smaller, quicker guy, so it probably helped.
Mhm.
But your point about the false finishes. So the spot where Jey Uso does the super kick, spear, splash. That is the collection of things that we thought he should do to beat Gunther.
Correct.
As opposed to a sleeper hold. So when he did it, I wrote in my notes as this is going on, super kick, spear, splash, Jay wins. And then Rollins kicked out. Like, it totally got me. I thought it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And Rollins had the 2.99 kick out, which was great. The distraction of it all at the end was a lot. The only two minor problems. One, the camera missed Braun spearing Jay.
It did. But to give them credit, the replay happened 5 seconds later. I've never seen them do a faster replay than that.
Exactly. They went straight to replay to show you right away. So credit to production on that. And two, when CM Punk's music hit, I could not tell what music it was.
Oh,
maybe it was the audio on my television is not as good, but I assumed it was CM Punk. But I listened and I could not make out what the music was. So I don't know if Mike's didn't pick it up well or if my TV's just not very good. But that was one thing I was like, it's got to be CM Punk, right? I can't tell until he came running down.
Yeah, I didn't have that issue. That's interesting.
Okay. Well, maybe it was just me then.
Yeah.
But my big point about Jay now is that, to me, this solidified he's going to have this title for a while. And because we all kept thinking, oh, he's going to beat Logan Paul at Backlash, and then he'll probably have to get into the Rollins thing, and maybe he's a short-term transitional champion because of how hot Seth is right now. And instead, they do it, and they really did it. You said at the beginning it didn't feel like a world championship match to start. It's because I think none of us believed it.
Right.
Like, they don't do world championship matches on TV very often. And when they do, they're not like really drawn out.
But did you disagree or did you agree with that? That like it didn't feel that way?
I agree because I was like, are we really doing this? Like when Jay said, let's do it tonight at the beginning of the show, I was like, well, they're probably not going to do it tonight because we've been conditioned all the time for that not to happen.
Right.
And so then it did. I was like, as the match goes on, I was like, they're really doing this. And I think that's why the crowd continued to get into it as well. But another key part of this, there was no point where Rollins had the match won clean. It's not like a referee was knocked out and Rollins had a 1-2-3 pin and it just didn't happen.
Right.
That never happened.
Right.
Either Jay kicked out or someone else interfered to prevent something from happening. And so it's a safe way to continue to legitimize Jay. It's not like Seth had that match won clean and he can complain about it or whatever. No, he tried to cheat and it didn't work.
Right. He didn't have it won clean, but he did have it won.
Via cheating. And so eventually it comes back upon him. So to go back, the idea that people aren't congratulating Jay on winning the championship and all of this kind of stuff. To me, this and what happened on Raw and what we presume will happen on Backlash is what will legitimize Jay as champion more than anybody's handshake or anything like that, which we can still get to with Roman and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I think Jay's going to have this title for a while, maybe until SummerSlam or something like that, because to do it like this, he will be defending the title twice in 1 week. And if he comes out of both of those,
he will not. So that was another point I was going to make. That match is not happening at Backlash. Jay and Logan Paul.
It's not?
No, and your confusion over that is exactly the point that I was going to make. It was never made official after Raw last week. WWE ran a post-match segment when Raw went off the air of Logan sucker punching Jay with a haymaker over the barricade. This was after the show. And I'm thinking, why couldn't we get that on TV? I have no idea. But, the match is still happening, but it's not happening at Backlash. They did a full card rundown on Raw. I checked the website. I checked their social media accounts. It is not announced for Backlash, which makes me believe, Chris, it's being saved for Saturday night's main event on May 24th, or maybe even Money in the Bank a month from now, because what I sure as shit do not want is Logan Paul in that Money in the Bank match again. I don't think you do or most people do either. They have other options, though, because what they've created coming out of this now is Punk, Sammy, and Jay on one side. You have Rollins and Breaker on another side. Paul is feuding with Jay simultaneously. They could do a 6-man match with all of these guys on Saturday night's main event.
That's a classic Saturday night's main event match.
It is. They could also do Jay and Logan for the title there, and everyone else gets involved, and that becomes a 6-man match that they put on Money in the Bank, which you're going to say, well, why wouldn't you want the title match on that show? Well, because there's a lot of star power here. And if you have huge baby faces in Jay, Sammy, and Punk all working together, and you're getting Logan on a team with Rollins and Breaker, 2 young guys with a veteran who's the top of the entire business right now, top of the entire company right now, that can work on that show as well, because the Money in the Bank matches are the featured items. And what are we talking about? What did we discuss at the beginning of the show? How the hell are they going to do creative for all these shows in such a short window of time? Well, not having a World Heavyweight Championship match on Money in the Bank, that would help, because then you get to save that World Heavyweight Championship match for your next major show. So there's just a lot of kind of convolution in terms of what the booking is going to be here. But I'm glad you said that, assuming this was on the Backlash card, because it is not going to be in our Ultimate Preview, because this match has not been announced for Backlash.
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
We did.
We were like, is Logan Paul and Pat McAfee taking
on the same card? We were angry about it, so we don't have anything to be angry about in that regard, I guess. Yeah.
Well, either way, this match legitimized Jay as champion, even more so than beating Gunther did, I think. And to your point, I think he's going to be champion for quite a bit here, which is good, which I think is what he needs.
Well, yeah, he should. I mean, just like when Kofi Kingston won the title, and frankly, I hate to categorize them in the same way, but also when Jinder Mahal won the title, you can't just put him on someone for 90 days. Like, they have to have legitimate reigns. You know, the issue with Kofi Kingston was the way he lost it, not the title reign that he had. He had a great title reign. He defended against multiple stars.
Let's go back a year. Damian Priest wins via Money in the Bank cash-in
at WrestleMania.
He defends it against Drew McIntyre via CM Punk interference
twice.
And this was a problem we had said last year, which was he didn't feel like a legitimate champion because he wasn't winning these matches in these important type of ways. Now, Jay didn't win this match, obviously, but he wasn't cheated out of losing it, and he looked very strong in it. So
Priest never had a match the level. So I'm not saying he didn't have great matches as champion, because he did, but he didn't have a match that made him as champion the way that Jay did against Rollins on Monday night.
And Jay, you could say Jay's had 2 of them. He beat Gunther. So that's
right.
It's a really good start to his feud and making him feel like champion in a way that didn't happen to Priest. Not the fault of Priest.
Right.
It's about the booking. The booking of Jay has been really good.
Priest's best match was his title loss to Gunther.
Yes.
I mean, that's just the facts of how it happened. 2 more quick notes on this before we move out of the main event. Roman has to be the worst member of the Anoa'i family at this point. Doesn't put over Jay for winning the title either at WrestleMania or the night after on Raw when he was in attendance. They could have done that backstage. He lets Punk save his own cousin from an attack at the hands of his greatest rival this week. It's kind of amazing when you think about it that Punk has been a better family member to Jay than Roman.
Well, he was an honorary member of the Bloodline.
Yeah, but Roman's the head of the Bloodline.
No, I know. Technically, they were family members for a night.
I guess you can say that. One more note from this main event. You know, they're continuing the Rollins-Punk singles feud. And obviously, we know that needs to have a culmination match given they're 1-1. At this juncture, Chris, it has to be something so epic and deserving of the stage that it's put on. Could be an Iron Man match, Hell in a Cell, some other major stipulation. There doesn't seem like there's going to be bad blood this year, so I don't think they're going to do Hell in a Cell. But
it shouldn't be Hell in a Cell. It's not at the level of Drew McIntyre. Not yet.
Not yet. But if they decide to keep the title on Jay through SummerSlam, then I do believe that you could put Seth Rollins and CM Punk in like an Iron Man #1 contendership match or something like that as the night 1 main event. Give them that massive spotlight that both of them deserve, because their first 2 matches, even though they both were great, they were not put in a position to have the prestige that their rivalry deserved. The first was on the main event for the Raw debut on Netflix, and the other was a main event steel cage match on Raw on the road to WrestleMania. Both great spots, but this should have been a 3 PLE feud, and right now it's been 0. The third one needs to be a major match in a major spot.
And to that point, we never really thought about it. You're going to have essentially 2 WrestleMania main events for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
It being a 2-night show. Is Jay enough to be one of those? Or do you do Rollins Punk for one of those? I would say you probably do Rollins Punk for one of those. That would make sense.
I think you could get away with Jay and Rollins, given what we just saw on Monday night.
Jay and Rollins, yes, but Punk Rollins would feel bigger.
And by the way, let's not discount the women. If they can hold off Rhea Ripley until then, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship, you put that night 1 main event, no one's complaining.
Io, Rhea, maybe.
Dude,
we're presuming John Cena is night 2.
We're presuming John Cena's night 2, correct?
We'll see. We don't need to fantasy book all that stuff.
No, we don't. It was just worth an early combo.
Keeping in mind as we figure out what to do with all these guys.
It is. And we still have a ton left to talk about from Raw and SmackDown, but here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, it is imperative that I remind you that this show
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And if you're a listener on Spotify and you don't have the ability to leave that whole review because they don't necessarily offer that, hit the 5-star rating, leave us a comment on an episode, and we'll do our best to read it here on the show. And this one is a long time coming. She sent it a while ago, but Shay at Shady Lady Cakes said, "Hey fellas, I'm a Spotify listener, so I can't leave a written review there. I wanted to give y'all some love. I'm a new listener and wrestling fan. I grew up watching WWE with my brothers, fizzled out as I got into my teens. As of about a year ago, I started getting back into it after watching WrestleMania 40 with my boyfriend, and I have been all in ever since. As a fresh fan without much knowledge about both storylines and the quality of the programming, I've just been enjoying my time watching."
Big meaty man slapping meat. That's what I want.
"But I can't be a casual fan of anything, so I started looking for more videos in history and decided to try a podcast to enhance my viewing. Enter you guys. I love how you break down everything in a way that is simple for a new fan to understand, but not condescending, and are teaching me not only what to appreciate on a deeper level, but also what to be critical of. Thank you for all that you do. I'm excited to continue my wrestling journey alongside y'all. I acknowledge you." So Shay, I just wanted to say, I'm real sorry that we went, I think, months from when you sent this in to us actually featuring it on the show, but I greatly appreciated it. And clearly I saved your note because it meant a lot to us hearing that. So Shay, we acknowledge you.
Acknowledge.
Big acknowledgement right there.
Acknowledge.
Now, as mentioned, there is still a ton to talk about from Raw and SmackDown. And of course, we still have your WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview coming up. But for now, it is time to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
So we had Io Sky against Roxanne Perez in a non-title match on Raw. Before this match, Roxanne cut her first main roster promo of her entire career. Of course, the American audience did not get to see it, and WWE chose not to publish it on social media either. I don't get this decision-making. That said, here it is.
That in just a few weeks, I put the entire women's division of Monday Night Raw on notice. Just ask your favorite, Rhea Ripley. Or why don't you ask your so-called champ, Io Sky? Oh, you guys love them, don't you? Yeah, it's probably because they're mediocre, just like this boring city and just like all of you people sitting in that crowd.
What's that all about?
But the prodigy, she's far from mediocre. You're looking at a former NXT Women's Tag Team Champion, a former 2-time NXT Women's Champion. In fact, I'm the most decorated champion to have ever walked out of NXT, man or woman. So, Io Sky, You might think that just because you walked out of WrestleMania with your title, that means that you're the top star in this business. But your time at the top is going to be very, very short. All thanks to the prodigy, Roxanne Perez.
Yeah, I don't know. Why would you want to get a new talent over with your American audience? Why not play that on the show? Good decision making, WWE. The crowd kind of sucked for the first half of this match until Io landed her signature sequence in celebration. Then they came alive. Sky hit a German suplex, tried to move it into another. Perez countered with a Saito suplex that Michael Cole incorrectly called a back suplex, and Pat McAfee incorrectly called an Olympic slam. 0 for 2, boys. Roxy avoided over the moonsault, hitting a basement hurricanrana and Satomura's cartwheel knee drop. Io avoided Pop Rocks with the same backflip counter she used Tuesday on NXT, only to eat a dragon screw. It ended with an extended counter fall sequence that Io ultimately won. The story of the match was Sky's knee, so the finish was appropriate because she couldn't necessarily do all of her moves. Roxy stopped the post-match celebration with a legitimate handshake and bow, though after she left the ring, Julia attacked anyway out of the crowd. Fans chanted for Rhea Ripley, who was still in Australia, so the heels just did the segment finish a second time, and the first one didn't so much go as planned. This one did. It was a side head kick and then like a stomp into the canvas. I'm glad that Io won here and it was not a DQ or a no contest, because we mentioned last week we have seen that every single week since WrestleMania. And I liked the post-match too. Extremely strong bell to bell, but certainly not the top level of their abilities. It didn't need to be because it was a non-title TV match in their first meeting, but I was left wanting a little bit more, all things considered, just given what I saw them do Tuesday on NXT and what I know they certainly can do. It's still good. 4 stars, A-, a smart way for both heels to look strong despite Perez losing another match clean. But if she was going to lose that match clean, maybe you should have aired her promo that got her over as a heel before the match began.
Exactly. It was a good match, good on the segment, but it's exactly what I said last week about these women, which was a lot of the viewers don't know who they are. You need them to talk to the crowd and the audience for us to learn that. And they did for the in-arena audience, but they didn't for us, especially when your babyface is not doing many promos and doesn't speak English great.
Mm-hmm.
You got to lean into Roxanne's personality as the driving force of the heel dynamics here. And to just not see that was too bad. But good segment overall.
Yeah, I've been getting coached up from one of our listeners on like how to use a VPN so that I can watch the International Raw and not miss all this stuff live. And I'm still not decided on whether I want to do that or not. Like I'm concerned that Netflix might notice and then you get in a problem. You can't have an account and you're screwed. I don't know what to do, but if a lot of you in the United States or some of you are using Netflix on a VPN with your television, I'm not watching on my phone or my laptop. If you are using a VPN with Netflix, send us a DM, send us a tweet, shoot us an email, gettingoverpod@gmail.com. Let me know the way you're doing it because, Chris, I am kind of interested in just like getting over all this crap. And it's going to suck, for the rest of American fans still, but at least we can deliver a more thorough experience here when we break down the show.
Yeah, I'm seeing more of them get posted on WWE social media, not all of them.
This week I saw 4 segments. One of them were posted on the social media account.
There you go. It'd be helpful to just get that up as quickly as possible.
If they put all 4 up, I probably wouldn't complain as much, honestly.
Yeah.
Nia Jax got a lot of heat cutting a promo saying she was home regrouping so that she could get revenge on Tiffany Stratton and regain her title. Stratton bragged about beating Charlotte Flair and promised to take down Jax should they fight again, with Nia basically goading her into agreeing to a rematch. Naomi interrupted, angry at both of them for stiff-arming her from the title back in the day, saying she's changed and won't be pushed around any longer. She was super confident, talking shit until Jade Cargill's music hit, leading to the expected face-heel brawl and tag team booking. Playa. Nick Aldis actually said playa, which popped me. Really fun touch. The heels came together backstage with Nia telling Naomi to get on the same page and out of her way. The faces decided to remain focused on the women that they hate individually, with Jade informing she has a number 1 contendership against Nia next week, regardless of the match result. So we had Stratton and Cargill against Jax and Naomi. Main evented SmackDown. Stratton caught Jax with a nice crucifix bomb as a counter to the Samoan drop. Nia then hit a Samoan and a leg drop, but Naomi, tagged in blind, got blocked with knees on a split-leg moonsault. Jade chokeslammed her. Nia landed an elbow drop and a senton, with Tiffy breaking up the fall via swanton bomb. Then she squashed both Stratton and Naomi in the corner. Jade stopped Annihilator by picking Jax off the top rope, hitting a huge powerbomb, and she got the clean win. Cargill grabbed the title after the bell, put it on her shoulder, then briefly played tug of war with Stratton over it until Naomi attacked and lifted the title herself to end the show. Strong finish for a match that I actually thought over-delivered to expectation. Given we presumed last week that Nia would become the next number one contender, Jade getting a clean win over her here made a lot of sense, especially because you're probably going to have Naomi get involved in that match next week with Nia coming out on top. All four did well. I didn't have much else to add other than that Naomi is totally over with this heel gimmick. That is great to see, and these segments were good.
Very good. I'm glad they addressed the backstory between all of them and be like, hey, Tiffy, you cost me a chance at the title back when you were helping Nia. Like, just that acknowledgement that these women have a history with each other and explaining that, very helpful, very appreciative of it. Jade pinning Nia, the expectation would be that Nia wins the number one contender. You know, we just had Tiffany Jade last week. Tiffany's the face, Nia's a heel. How I expect it to go, but overall, really solid. Naomi continues to be really over.
The vision for this feels pretty clear, Chris. Tiffy retains over Nia, maybe in a TV main event, maybe at Saturday night's main event. Then she fights Jade at Money in the Bank. Naomi wins the Money in the Bank briefcase with a teased cash-in, screwing Jade, only for Naomi to maybe cash in at a later date. I mean, I hope she doesn't cash in on that show, but that is what I see. I think the two contenders for Money in the Bank right now are Naomi and Chelsea Green. And given how close Chelsea came last year, it feels like they'd go in a different direction with someone else this year. But I just see it playing out that way. What about you?
Yeah, Naomi as Money in the Bank winner makes perfect sense. Like, as much sense as you could possibly have a Money in the Bank winner.
Right.
It would really fit.
Especially because if you do eventually have Naomi beat Stratton for the title, that's how you make Jade champion. Jade then challenges Naomi, beats her rival, gets the title, and she gets to run with it for the first time. So it just kind of fits together nicely. Fraxium fought pretty deadly. Fraxium backstage were excited for their next opportunity, saying they want to make SmackDown the best tag team division on the planet. Deadly agreed with that contention. They were excited to have more Europeans on the show, but said opportunities must be earned. Fraxium hit 4 straight tope suicidas. Nathan Frazier hit a springboard into a inverted DDT while simultaneously hitting a regular DDT. Then he hit a standing shooting star press, unfortunately, into Elton Prince's face. His nose completely busted open on landing. Because of that, he forgot to lift his shoulder on the cover. The referee stopped her count anyway. That was not ideal. Frazier ate a powerbomb. Axiom landed a Spanish fly on Kit Wilson, and Frazier followed with a Phoenix Splash for their second straight win in 10 minutes. I'd like to see a tag team finisher from them. They did the move with Axiom's golden ratio in NXT, the tandem move. Other than that, I literally have no notes coming out of their debut matches. Fraxium is getting over quite fast with the crowd. They're going wild for their moveset and athleticism. They already have more character than Motor City Machine Guns, despite having only one backstage segment to date. It may be a good idea to throw them in a title match against the Street Profits inside of the next 4 to 6 weeks. That way they can take an L knowing they still have a ways to go until they're champions. But I'm loving this start for their booking. Good stuff.
Yeah, good, solid match. I like the backstage a bit too. So, not much to it other than to say it was good.
Aleister Black fought The Miz. Carmelo Hayes gassed Miz up backstage, saying they'd show Black what's up. Mello also named his chain Dre. So the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal chain that he has is now just called Dre, which popped me. Miz said he's fighting to remind everyone that he should be on top, and he had a completely uncommon slip while comparing his tenure in WWE to Black being released after 5 years. It still fit, but just it wasn't perfect. And I should mention, because I'm just realizing now, Chris, I didn't talk about it at any point in the opening of the show. We have an entire special WWE episode on more than a dozen superstars who were released from their WWE contracts Friday and over the weekend. It is in the podcast feed. If you have not listened to it, make sure you do. I apologize for not mentioning it at the top of the show. We'll mention it again at the end in case some of you are kind of skipping over this, but make sure you listen to that bonus show. Anyway, back to Aleister Black and The Miz, who are both currently employed. by WWE. Wade Barrett had a great line here saying he never sees Black backstage. He just suddenly appears before matches. Miz avoided Black mess at the bell, mostly a standard fair match until Black got aggressive with a spinning back fist and a massive pump knee. Black then did a cartwheel counter of skull-crushing finale, hitting a leaping Black mass that was more of a pump knee because Miz was again too close for the second straight week. Black raised Miz's head for the finish. Melo's distraction led to a roll-up attempt. He kicked out and finally landed a perfect Black mass for the first time in 3 tries on Miz to get the win. Melo didn't hesitate. He went face-to-face with Black after the bell, though eventually he did back down and leave the ring. Excellent selling by Miz throughout this entire match. Really put over Black and his finisher as devastating. It was a strong showing for Aleister, albeit not the peak of his ability given the opponent, but that's not to discount Miz. He worked his ass off, and again, he showed that he is a solid, valuable worker for this company. Commentary did a great job selling Black to the audience, and while I wish the crowd reaction was a little bit stronger, it did pop in all the right spots. Black, whether he's going to beat Hayes next week, I don't know. He, on one hand, they could put on an absolute banger match that Aleister wins, or because Miz is out there, maybe there's some shenanigans and Melo actually gets a win over Black. That would be awesome. As long as that match gets legitimate time and Melo gets to stand up to him in similar fashion, looks close to being his equal, that will probably help him in the long run, just like the Andrade feud. Definite good all around here. Black came across like the lethal weapon we know he can be, and for a re-debuting superstar, that was hugely important.
Yes, good match, good solid stuff. I would be stunned if Aleister Black doesn't win against Carmelo Hayes in his second match back. But Melo is doing better and doing more things, which is good. Aleister Black's the Titantron, it like said something on the screen, but was like really far away. I couldn't read what it said. I have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's part of the entrance or what it is, but I just wrote it down as something I'm curious about. But other than that, this was good. It
is part of the entrance. It happened the week prior as well. I believe it has always been part of his Titantron entrance, but maybe got removed when he went from NXT to the main roster. But if you look on YouTube for like the entrance video of Aleister Black, I wouldn't be shocked if it was part of that. But it's not in English. I think it's in, what do they speak in the
Dutch?
Netherlands? Danish? Dutch?
He's Dutch.
Yeah. So whatever, I presume it's in that language and it gets translated or doesn't get translated, whatever the case might be. If someone out there knows what it says or has more specifics on that, please let us know and we will discuss it next week on the show.
Oh, wait. I figured out what it was. I did a Google search. It popped up on Reddit. It's apparently also on the back of his new merch.
Oh, so it's new. Okay.
And it says, and it looks like it's in English, or at least it's in English on the merch. I myself restored in colors midnight and gray. Growing nightmares and speaking flames, the white ashen reaper returning in thundering silence. Heed my words of unwarranted hell. And that's it.
Okay. It looked longer than that, but it's a poem. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, it looks like 4 lines, so interesting.
Okay. There goes the assumption that it's in a different language just because I couldn't see it from afar.
It's in like a Gothic font, so from far away you can't tell.
Okay, fair enough. So Santos Escobar approached Rey Fenix backstage, seeming like he was going to praise him, but rather saying he embarrassed the tradition of Lucha Libre by losing to a clown like El Grande Americano, especially since Rey Mysterio handpicked him at WrestleMania. Escobar said he's ready to replace Mysterio as the greatest luchador of all time, but Fenix snapped, saying there's only one luchador he trusts, and it's not Santos. I enjoyed how Escobar has like hatred for Americano, despite both of them being heels, and also how he referenced brother in here, obviously alluding to Penta, but not directly saying his name. So we had Fenix against Escobar. The Animo start of Fenix's entrance sound, it may or may not have changed for a third time. It's tough to say, but it sounded like, I'm not actually sure I can describe what it sounded like, but if you listen to it yourself, it's weird. Just go and listen to it. Anyway,
I feel like it's getting a little better every time they change it.
This one sounded let me put it this way. It sounded like a groan of some kind. If you listen to it. It's odd.
I get what you're saying.
Escobar, yeah, hey now, exactly. Escobar had a nice like tope suicida javelin type of move. Fenix came back with a perfect springboard moonsault. Fenix had a great kip-up rebound after eating a pump knee, landing a crescent kick, and then collapsing. Santos caught him with a pump knee during a springboard, plus a standing Meteora and a double underhook facebuster onto his knee. Phoenix then hit Adios Amigo and a huge top rope Meteora for the win. Did not land his finisher, which was actually kind of surprising. I expected a bit more from this match, given both of their immense talent. It felt like it was operating at like 0.75 speed. It was still good, a smart way to get Phoenix another win as he continues to stack victories. Thought it was odd that Santos fought him rather than Angel because it appeared that was going to be the next match. I presumed there was a complication, but then we saw Los Garza moments later. Like I said before, I'm okay with Phoenix temporarily being in this Lucha vortex as long as he comes out of it soon, especially since Penta did not debut that way on Raw, so we know they're not just forcing them into only luchador matches. At the same time, it feels like this needs to go somewhere soon.
Do we still have the drop of Rey Mysterio saying lucha stuff?
That's not Rey Mysterio, just so you know. You mean this?
I'm here to stay, make a good lucha thing. God damn.
Who is that?
Kalisto. That was basically the end of his career.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that promo basically ended his career.
I feel like it could be used in so many of these WWE things with how much they're just putting the luchadors together all the time to do their thing. This was fine. My only thought, was it just me or did Santos look really thin?
He did, yeah.
Compared to how he normally looks. He's normally just got a lot more muscle on him. I don't know what for. I know a couple weeks ago he wrestled in a shirt, which was surprising. So I don't know if there's anything going on, but that stuck out to me as well.
I mean, he's well built. He's a good looking dude. So
very.
I can't tell you why, but no, he did look skinnier than usual, thinner than usual. No question. Was this a good for you?
Yes.
I'm just frustrated. It's not the crowd's fault. Escobar is better than the reactions he's getting. WWE needs to figure out a way to position him. That way the crowd reacts to him to the level that his talent deserves. Because unlike Andrade, who's great in the ring, but doesn't really have a lot of character and can't really speak well and doesn't get his point across easily, Escobar does. And when he was positioned across from D'Angelo family in NXT and they built Legado del Fantasma and they had all those backstage segments, they were totally over with the fans. Right now, they just kind of exist as three luchadors who are together as a group, but there's no reason to care about any of them. And it's doing a disservice to all three. I know that they can do better.
Look, I said when he came up, I'd be stunned if he wasn't a future world champion. Like he was everything you would want in your next Mexican star. Speaks great English, can do everything, looks amazing. It just hasn't happened for whatever reason. And it's at the point where I don't think it's going to happen, at least in terms of being a world champion.
The world champion? No, he will not be world champion now.
No, and which I think is a miss.
Agreed.
Like how they didn't figure that out and make it work and make him into a big star is a failure on whoever's fault it was. It's probably a combination of a lot of folks, but
sure.
Yeah, and now that you're buying AAA and having all these different connections, the uniqueness of Santos, back in NXT, like that was the Mexican / luchador group. Mm-hmm. Now there's a lot of those. Right. And so you got to find out something else.
You have LWO, you have a couple brothers, Andrade's back. Like it's just, he doesn't stand out as much, but I agree that he's gone from World Heavyweight Championship contention in his career, but he could definitely be a United States or Intercontinental Champion. No question about it. They can build him up to that. They just got to make the effort.
He just feels so far away from that.
He does. Yeah.
I don't get it.
He feels like a lower mid-carder when he should be an upper mid-carder, and they got to figure that out. Continuing with him, Escobar backstage snapped at Los Garza for not having his back when Andrade came in trying to calm tensions. Andrade said Santos doesn't care about Los Garza, and while they have legacy, they don't have respect or honor. Escobar tried to pull them both away. Angel laughed a bit. Berto was stone-faced, and he actually stayed back to hear a little bit more from Andrade before getting screamed at by Santos again and leaving. No grade here because it was short, but I'm actually curious where this is going. I don't see Los Garza splitting up. They're really hitting well in their tag team role. I don't know what happens to Escobar without them, and I don't know what Andrade wants with them. So I'm just curious. I am. They have me wondering where this is going, and I like all four guys. So, deliver now.
Yeah. The Garzas have never done much for me, but to each their own.
Penta fought JD McDonough on Raw. Finn Balor and Carlito both interfered deep into the match, so Penta hit a flying crossbody into Carlito and JD ringside. Balor got caught on the back end, and both got ejected from ringside by the referee. Chad Gable ran in to hold Penta's leg on the ropes, but Penta immediately caught him with a tope con hero, only to eat a jawbreaker from McDonough. He missed the moonsault and immediately ate a Mexican destroyer on the rebound, with Penta getting the win. Good overall. It felt a little bit repetitive. I expected more from Penta and McDonough in the ring, but the finish was red hot. We see so many destroyers, and we never see them as finishers, which they really should be because it's a spectacular move that's basically a pile driver onto someone's head. Penta also apparently got a remixed entrance theme from a Tool guitarist. It sounded better, but man, if they just added lyrics now, this thing would completely hit as an entrance. It's funny, though, that it's like his 5th changed entrance in just a few months of working in WWE. We've called it out every single time, and here's yet another one. But to be fair, it is his best yet.
Yeah, like Phoenix, I do think they're getting better. It's just weird to watch them figure it out in real time, week to week.
It's so unpolished. It's ridiculous.
This was fine. It was solid. It was good. No complaints. Nothing great. Just kind of was what it was.
Getting overhead at Bodine22 wrote in on buymeacoffee.com/getting over. He said, on the international version, commentary were putting over JD McDonough massively during the commercial break, even saying it's unfortunate that he's aligned himself with Judgment Day. Interesting comments I wanted to share with you. Yeah, that is interesting. Too bad we didn't get to hear it. I'm starting to get legitimately angry that we as Americans, especially those of us who pay top dollar for Netflix without ads, are missing swaths of Raw. At this point, I'm now turning into the belief of Raw in America should not have ads if you are paying for the top version, the 4K and whatever that is, $25 a month. You should not have ads on Raw. If you have an ad-included service, then just like Peacock, okay, fine, skip a couple segments, do what you're doing, but it's getting ridiculous. If you pay that much money for this streaming service, you should be able to watch the entirety of Raw. And even if you can't live, the replay, which does not have ads, even in the United States, it should have every single segment, yet it doesn't. It has the shortened American version.
Maybe it's the tariffs. I don't know. Maybe it's a tariff on commentary or something. But that is interesting. It does feel like a Judgment Day breakup is coming at some point.
Yeah.
And JD McDonough will play a role in that.
Unrelated to what we just spoke about, I don't believe any of you will have a problem with me spoiling WWE Speed, but a title match was taped Monday before Raw with El Grande Americano winning the social media title off of Dragon Lee on Cinco de Mayo, by the way. Interestingly, Americano is just the 4th men's champion in a calendar year, and he's the 3rd straight luchador to hold it. So congratulations to El Grande Americano. New Day backstage got Gable's back as he was recovering from injury, saying he and American Made deserved more respect. Plus, they believed they deserved the title shot sooner than the War Raiders deserve a rematch for the titles, basically putting them in line for interference. Becky Lynch also walked in, and all the heels sided with one another in their respective feuds, which was funny because you'll remember there was a long time where no one was even giving New Day the time of day. Yet Becky was cool with them, and they were cool with Becky. During a commercial break, the Raiders said that they beat the Creed brothers twice, but they were willing to beat them again so New Day could not run away from a rematch. By the way, this also happened off of American television. Adam Pearce then said, I don't know why he said this. He said, "Hey, Americano." And Gable turned around, so he wished him a happy Cinco de Mayo. He must have thought he said, "Hey, Gable," or something like that. I don't understand why he would say, "Hey, Americano," when Gable was there. But all of this was pretty fun together. I just wanted to mention that it happened so you understood next week.
No, that was very clearly on purpose. It was an attempt by him to get Gable to accidentally admit that he's Americano.
But why would he admit that when they're completely different people?
Because Michael Cole keeps saying they're the same person.
Yeah, but
it's very much the
thing. But this guy Americano is being prosecuted for no reason whatsoever. When he's come in, all he's had is success, winning matches and stuff. He just won the Speed title earlier that night, and they're trying to make it seem like I don't know, something's happening with Gable where he's playing the role or something like that. It's insulting to this guy. I mean, he had a WrestleMania match.
Americano, by the way, should have the Speed title on television. I honestly didn't even know Speed was still a thing. And I'm surprised WWE doesn't even promote it on its own shows.
I'm surprised you don't think this guy is being treated unfairly. That's all I'm trying to say.
Hey, he's the one who responded to it and looked back.
Chad Gable did, but he probably just thought he said, "Hey, Gable." That's what I'm saying. I think it was just a misunderstanding. It was just a misunderstanding. Michin and BFAB backstage on SmackDown pitched themselves to Nick Aldis as a new tag team that wants to go after the titles. They said they were inspired by TLC last week. Good thing, because they got rid of all the women's tag teams. Secret Hervis and Chelsea Green interrupted with Chelsea looking like a widow. She called Zelina Vega crooked and said the locker room was the deep state. Funny. And it would have been funnier if it wasn't so painfully on the nose. There was another funny bit about her criticizing Aldis for not being American when none of them in her group, of course, are either. Aldis said he would consider a rematch, but first he wanted to give Piper Niven a shot against the champion, which was news to everyone there. This was a real fun segment with Chelsea and Hervis remaining immensely funny and entertaining. I love the idea of Aldis purposefully trying to fracture the group, but I was initially concerned having Vega go against Niven, just given the drastic size differential and the potential believability of a match result between them. Given WWE's releases and their on-screen relationship, Michin and BFAB, they absolutely make sense as a tag team. Michin should really help BFAB's development in the ring. Not necessarily the most exciting team, but a legitimate one. Hopefully one that catches on and draws fan reaction, because BFAB has been getting over a little bit. And don't forget, what have I said all the time about the women's tag teams? They don't have to be permanent. You just need to create friendships where they can work in a tag team division, or when title opportunities exist for the mid-card or the main title, they can splinter off and go after those as well. I thought this was a very good segment.
Agree. They're great.
So we had Zelina against Piper in a non-title match. There was a new Secret Hervis entrance that was okay. I really liked Niven's old music, but this one made sense. They got a more important sounding type of theme. Vega hit a code breaker in the latter stages, only to get crushed with a Uranagi and a running senton. Zelina hit a Meteora off the ropes. Piper easily broke Code Red, countering with a boss man slam. Vega came back with an impactful tornado DDT counter and a moonsault. Niven again prevented Code Red. Vega countered a powerbomb into a 619 setup, only for Green to distract. Piper attacked and unfortunately pounced her partner off the ropes, allowing Zelina to catch her in, seriously, one of the best and tightest jackknife covers I have ever seen for the win. When this match started, Chris, I had bad written down as a grade based purely on assumption. I could not have been happier to erase that. This was a perfect match for what it needed to be, and a paradigm of what I always talk about when it comes to the women's mid-card. Even a couple years ago, this would have been 6 minutes with a silly roll-up finish, and that's it. This went 11 minutes, and because it got so much time, the crowd went from somewhat indifferent to fully 100% bought in, cheering for Zelina. Plus, the finish was so well put together because it allowed us to believe Vega would have won clean. But second, because even despite her not hitting a finisher, the pinning combination was a completely believable way for the smaller Zelina to beat Piper. A trap is a trap. Leverage is leverage. Piper was protected in the finish. Not only does Vega come out of this more over than ever before, Niven again showed out bell to bell, and we are huge fans of hers. It all made sense in storyline as well. This was a fun segment, and it might have been my easiest good on SmackDown Friday night.
Really good. And you could make a case this should have been a title match because Piper beat Zelina 2 months ago on SmackDown.
That's true.
In another match that got 12 minutes.
And they didn't even mention that.
Yeah, and was another, you give them a little bit more time to let them go, and it works and people get behind it. So this was all really good. My only complaint, it's nitpicky, but it's once again Zelina wins and has to sneak out of the ring and run away with her title. This one made sense because it's a, not a roll up, but it's a quick pin type of thing, and you got to get away from the heels. I didn't like it when she won the title, but let Zelina celebrate in the ring after a win sometime.
Especially because, no offense to her, she's so small that when you're celebrating on the ramp, no one can see her in the crowd. You want her on the top rope celebrating. She needs to be as high as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Grayson Waller was arguing with Adam Pearce backstage on Raw, clearly trying to get out of a scheduled match. Austin Theory came up to see what was going on. Waller changed his tune, apologized for demanding a singles match last week. I guess that happened during one of those commercial break segments that we didn't see in the United States. Never saw it posted on social media either. WWE, you got to get your shit together there. Anyway, this wound up with Waller offering the spot to Theory, but he would not reveal the opponent. Pierce knew the opponent and knew that Waller was up to no good, but didn't get involved. So we ended up having Sheamus against Theory. Sheamus got a great reaction from the crowd, but his theme was utter trash. Waller was reluctant to help during the match. Sheamus perfectly countered a rolling move with a pump knee. Theory hit the rolling blockbuster soon after that. Sheamus came back with avalanche white noise. Waller was again unwilling to help before 14 beats. Sheamus stared down Waller, took Theory's head off with a bro kick, got the 1-2-3. I figured there'd be a full heel turn after the bell, but they didn't go any further. In fact, WWE cut to a promo for Backlash as they argued in the ring, so we didn't even get to see that. I'm saying good here because we got 3 guys back on TV who badly need to be featured. Sheamus was super over. The match was strong, and it seems like Theory Waller is finally going to blow up. Plus, I want to give credit to Waller for flying to Perth and back in just a few days, still appearing on TV. Granted, he didn't wrestle, but that is not an easy trip by any means. I was actually surprised to see him there at all. But again, good.
That should have been the explanation to get out of the match.
You would think so.
He also looked incredibly tan, except for his face. was a lot less tan. It was fine. I mean, it's good to see Sheamus back and he gets a win and whatever. Waller and Theory have been teasing a breakup for like a year more. I don't know. It's one of those things where
It's been crazy.
something you think is about to happen with them doesn't, and they just kind of sit in that limbo forever and you lose interest. Like, breakup or not, I don't think I'm going to care. I think both of these guys are really talented. Waller especially, I think, has been so criminally underused. But until something happens with them, whatever.
They both have been underused. They won the tag team titles last year at WrestleMania.
Well, Theory was a U.S. champion who got a match with Cena at WrestleMania.
Yeah, he was, but he's been underused recently since Triple H took over creative.
But Waller is such a good promo, and they've only ever given him one real promo in his life in the ring on the main roster when it was him and John Cena in London, and he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And they've never gone back to that, and I don't get it. They've only ever done his talk show thing, which is stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, 1000% right. No argument for me. We had Otis against Rusev.
Oh, we got 2 big meaty men bumping me tonight. This is Monday Night Meat. Where else can you see 2 beef planets like this colliding?
Beef planets, I like that.
I miss Wade on Raw. There was basically no reaction to Rusev's entrance, but he did get the crowd with a huge leaping roundhouse kick. Otis put him into the announce table with a suplex, then ran him into the steel steps. Then Otis punched the ring post, but Rusev kicked the ring post. Rusev came back with a counter thrust kick and won via submission with the accolade. Akira Tozawa took exception after the bell, but Rusev backed down from further fighting. Except he turned right back, lifted Tozawa for a gut-wrench powerbomb into Otis, who he twice ran into the ring post, hitting another thrust kick and another accolade until he was pried off. This all happened as Natalya ran out to console Maxine Dupree ringside. The fans absolutely sucked during this match, but it was wrestled well and it was exactly what it needed to be in terms of booking, length, devastation, all for Rusev to look dominant and get over as a heel. I cannot fault WWE at all for this not getting a reaction. They had a new heel destroy a top babyface who fans generally love to cheer. What this tells me is that beyond Omaha not being a great crowd for the first 2 hours of the show, is they got to work a lot harder to get Rusev over. Because as I said upon his return, the rehiring just made no sense whatsoever. Bringing back Aleister Black made sense. Bringing back Rusev, I don't know why he's there. I don't know what he's going to do. This gets a light good because it was not bad, but it was the least enjoyable part of 5.5 hours of WWE TV this week for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a bad for that. I think the problem is we don't really know still what Rusev like is. We talked about it quite a bit last week, but like either kind of be expressive and emotive and talkative or don't. And he's still kind of doing both. Cole afterward called it vigilante justice, which I did not understand at all.
That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Justice for what? I like the idea of him extolling justice but Otis is not the place to do that. At least without an explanation. At least I didn't see one. This was just a match.
Yeah. What Rusev said last week in that promo, which was taped 2 weeks ago, was that he was hated that people weren't living up to their ability. They were getting complacent and they were just kind of doing things and joking around and not taking the work serious because he learned while he was gone in the abyss that basically that's what you need to do. So he was back to redeem himself and he wanted to help others redeem themselves. So it made sense because Otis is a joke.
Okay,
But they
so
didn't.
in
But they didn't sell
case-
that though. But they didn't. That's not vigilante justice.
No. What we should have gotten is a Rusev promo saying that before the match.
Agreed.
Saying, hey,
Directed at Otis.
yes, Otis, you were a Money in the Bank champion, and now you do all this stuff. You've wasted your talent. I will take your talent from you. And destroy
Exactly.
you. Like, boom. Like, if you're not going to use your talent, I will take it from you. Like, that's the gimmick, kind of.
Yeah.
And so just give us that explanation as opposed to just kind of having a match and then weirdly explaining it after the fact.
Yeah, you know what? I'm switching my grade to bad. You're 100% right. Because even though the segment, there was nothing wrong with it, the entire context was off and they didn't deliver on what they needed to deliver on. You're 1,000% right. I'm switching double bad from both of us to kind of end this. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, just this doesn't really have a place in Good, Bad, or Ugly or anywhere else on the show. But the one segment that WWE did tape but not air in the United States that it also posted on social media was a 90-second Karrion Kross promo. And we've been airing all of them here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. So, Chris, why not do one more? Here you go.
It sounds to me like we have some fellow bad guys in the audience here in Nebraska. And A-Town Down Under, very interesting. But you want to talk about Sami Zayn? Let's talk about Sami Zayn. No doubt about it, he's got a guilty conscience with his participation in the reign of terror from the OG bloodline, and he just wants to make the right decision. Ladies and gentlemen, do you feel that Sami Zayn made the right decision turning down Seth Rollins last Monday night on Raw? Mixed reactions, shades of gray. I like that. You know what? I can't judge. I'm no saint. As a matter of fact, some people have even referred to me as a killer. But I'll say this. I'm nobody special. I'm just the devil you know versus the devils you don't. Kathy, what do you think? What would you do in this situation? Would you join Seth Rollins?
I mean, he didn't pose the question to me, but you do leave Omaha with a lot to think about, so thank you so much.
Such a cop-out, such a cop-out. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think Kathy would have joined Seth Rollins had he asked her?
Well, on that note, I think we should get back to the action. Thank you so much.
Another killer this wasn't really as much a promo as it was a statement from Karrion Kross, who maybe they're turning face and maybe they're calling Killer Kross. I don't exactly know what's happening right now, but this was awesome from him. And just as a side note, this was audio only, but seek out this video because Scarlett and Kathy Kelly
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, "Hey now!"
Chris, your thoughts?
It's good, solid, would love to see him doing more. And until then, we just kind of have these online promos.
Yeah.
So.
And actually having it happen on television, live in front of the entire world, not just people internationally. That wraps up everything else that happened across Raw and SmackDown this week, which leaves us with our 2025 WWE Backlash Ultimate Preview. We're going to break down all 5 matches on the card. Of course, we will tell you what happened across Raw and SmackDown. We'll give you some predictions and we'll analyze what we expect to happen coming out of the show. 4 of the 5 matches are for titles, but only 1 of the 4 main titles in the company are actually on the line. Let's go ahead and break down everything on WWE Backlash. The Intercontinental Championship will be defended. Dominic Mysterio against Penta. This match was announced after Penta's win over McDonough. Flash to the Judgment Day Clubhouse with Dom saying he would take care of Penta, but he missed Liv Morgan. AJ Styles surprisingly popped in, referring to Finn as Prince, his old name, which was pretty cool. He claimed R-Truth gave him directions to the clubhouse, and he wasn't there to cause trouble. He was delivering a warning that he was coming after the title. Dom complained that being champion is hard, and he asked Balor to take care of Styles for him. Balor snapped at him, but he said he was kidding, and he was willing to do it. That match is happening next week. So we're getting Styles and Balor on free television, or I guess not free television, but on television. We also saw Balor speaking with Roxanne Perez in the background of another backstage segment. It was really cool to see Styles and Balor together here. Plus, this continued the Balor, Dominic storyline. It didn't necessarily add anything in terms of direct build for this Backlash match, other than basically telling us that Dom would retain the title, though we knew that anyway, given it was his first defense, which makes the pick easy. Dominic retaining over Penta, likely through Judgment Day interference. Chris, your thoughts on this backstage segment and your prediction for the match?
Kind of like with Waller in theory, just like do the Judgment Day breakup. This Dominic Finn stuff has been going on for a while now.
Not nearly as long, though, comparatively.
No, but pull the plug, man, because otherwise Finn's going to look weak if he's just going to continually put up with this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's indicating he's close to breaking and not putting up with it, but sooner rather than later. Please, my pick is also Dominic to win this match for that exact reason. You don't want him losing the title 3 weeks after he won it.
And if you're a first-time listener, by the way, we normally go much longer on our match breakdowns and analysis, but frankly, for Backlash, nothing's that deep because it's all been built over just a couple of weeks. So this should be a rather quick segment compared to what it normally looks like here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. The United States Championship will be defended. This match was entirely booked Friday night. Damian Priest got into a shoving match with Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa backstage. LA Knight just strolled by laughing at all of them. Knight cut a promo in the ring blaming Priest for getting involved and costing him the #1 contendership last week, even if he didn't intend to do it. Priest agreed that he's cool with Knight. He blamed Drew McIntyre, saying he came out last week to shut him up for mentioning his family. Then it got contentious between them, with Priest saying Knight would have lost to McIntyre like he lost to Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, as Knight said Priest is not able to take care of his own problems, so he put LA in the middle of them. They ultimately decided not to delay their scheduled match, but instead fight right away on SmackDown. So we got Knight against Priest. Typical start between them. Knight hit the jump-up elbow drop. Priest came back with a razor's edge halfway across the ring. Knight answered with the box jump superplex. Priest responded with an apron flatliner before Solo Sikoa attacked ringside for a DQ, drawing legitimate crowd heat given they were chanting, "This is awesome," while being fully invested into the match. Priest got the Keith Lee shot, rising from behind Sikoa like King Kong. He prevented a Samoan spike. Knight hit Solo with BFT. The faces decided to team up. Fatu saved, only for Knight to eat a Samoan drop into the announce table, with WWE production cutting to the completely wrong camera. Jacob then hip attacked Damian into the barricade, and I believe it was another wrong camera shot, like 2 in a row. Now, in terms of all of this,
oh, that was a great matchup, but the ending sucked.
This was actually a requested sound drop by Billy Habibi, who noted that we don't use it enough across every company. And he's right. We should use that a lot more.
Good point. He's right.
He is. But the problem is this soundboard now has 127 drops, and I try to produce while hosting simultaneously, which is near impossible to have sound drops while I'm talking or while Chris is talking, but we will work it in more, and we're going to clean up the soundboard as well. Anyway, about this segment and this match. This was the 5th DQ or no contest in the last 4 main roster shows since WrestleMania as of Friday. And it was the 3rd across 2 episodes of SmackDown. Triple H, get a grip on this shit, dude. I know the U.S. title storyline is being built around non-finishes because the idea is to develop multiple contenders and feud simultaneously, but you got to keep it to one division. You can't do it for the men on SmackDown and the women on Raw. It is way too much. Overall, it's kind of crazy that these guys in this storyline got the entire first 30 minutes of TV across 3 different segments. The opening felt somewhat fresh and realistic, but Priest, man, he remains super robotic on the mic more than he should be at this juncture of his career. You can tell when he's given a looser leash or when he's kept on script. This was on script. Knight was strong. The match was exciting. The story is clearly developing, but by the time it was over, it just didn't have a lasting impact on me.
The most interesting thing going on here to me is LA Knight and Priest. I thought it was a really good open to the show.
Mm-hmm.
LA Knight saying, "Don't let your failures become mine." I thought the two of them were back and forth pretty good for the 2nd week in a row. No, I'm sorry. It was LA Knight, Drew McIntyre before that. But
right.
LA Knight, he gets the most out of people on the mic because he comes at you and he forces you to be on your game. And you got to hang with him. And that's why he's really talented and good at what he does. This was the first time I could remember when they would say, "We have a match scheduled, but let's do it right now." And then they do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, anytime someone says, "Let's do it now," the authority will come out and change that. So I was like, "Oh, we're actually doing that. Okay, that's good." And the match was good. Like you said, people were into it. And then the ending sucked. And it's a weird situation where Jacob Fatu is the champion and he's like the 4th wheel in this whole thing. And
after LA Knight was the champion, I'm sorry to interrupt you. After LA Knight was the champion and he was the 4th wheel right before.
Yeah. So it's like,
or 3rd wheel.
They've got good combinations of people, but the title keeps becoming like background to it, which is Odd.
You're right. It is. So Aldis gave Sikoa and Fatu a talking to backstage. Solo for forcing matches to get thrown out, and Jacob for attacking people after the fact. Sikoa blamed Priest for last week. He backed up Fatu, saying he was just doing his job as champion. Aldis told them Jacob would defend the title in a triple threat against Priest and Knight. Solo rightly pointed out that Drew McIntyre actually won the number one contendership, and it should be them one-on-one. So Aldis, frankly, in a total asshole move, he made it a fatal four-way. Sikoa was pissed. Fatu was confident. When Jacob left, Solo criticized Aldis for trying to screw his family. Aldis said it was Sikoa's fault. And you know what?
This right here is bullshit.
As I said last week, Solo has had Jacob's back time and again throughout his entire pursuit of the title. If you remember, he even gave up a title shot that he was granted to hand Fatu a prior opportunity. All he's done is support his family. And here, the general manager of SmackDown, the dude in charge, he left McIntyre, who actually won a number one contendership, out of a title match. For what reason exactly? Because he's a heel? So Solo corrects the mistake of a dumb middle manager, and his family has to pay for that? I guess the part of it that's believable is that middle managers take offense to being corrected. So this bothered me in reality because leaving McIntyre out initially was ridiculous, and it bothered me in kayfabe because Aldis is a pure wedge driver who is gaslighting Sikoa, who, by the way, was pretty hysterical here once again. Do better, Aldis. Now, I say that all sarcastically to a degree, but also somewhat joke seriously because why was McIntyre left out of this match in the first place? Didn't make any sense. The end result is a fatal four-way between all four guys at Backlash. Before we predict that match, Chris, what were your thoughts on this segment?
Well, let's not forget that Aldis was kind of tormented and having to deal with the new bloodline for a very long time. So there is a lot of history between Solo and Aldis.
But if that's the case, why would he have left Drew out of a title match? Wouldn't he want to make it more difficult on him?
That was a mistake. That is an oversight. But him not liking Solo
that's
is
fine.
Completely in character.
That is justified. I agree. Yes.
But it does feel like it's setting up a spot where, you know, we're going to get the Jacob Solo divide at some point, clearly. And it seems like it'll be set up to make Jacob the face because people like him. So.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Now, look, at one point, I believed Solo was actually going to be part of this match. I figured that would create animosity between himself and Jacob, and also so he could take the fall and protect pretty much everyone else in the match. With him not involved, sure, he could cost Jacob the strap. I just don't believe a quick change like that makes any sense for Fatu. You generally only do something like that if you're going to give someone a push toward the main championship, and they're not going to have Jacob Fatu fighting John Cena. So I definitely have Fatu retaining the title, and given Knight already lost to him, he should probably be the one who gets pinned. But as long as it's not McIntyre, I really don't care who takes the fall.
Yeah, Jacob Fatu winning, just like Dominic. You can't have somebody who just won their first title drop it 3 weeks later. I'm actually really excited about this. I think this could be really good, perhaps match of the short card. I think these guys have done a really good job together. And frankly, I wish we had more time to build it. I mean, I hope we get a good go home on SmackDown, but every in-ring promo bit with these guys has been really solid. And I hope we get another good one going into the match.
Completely agree. I really wish I had done the research because this has to be the first PLE that is not a big four. So not, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, or Survivor Series. I'm actually going to reduce that even further. This has to be the first PLE other than WrestleMania and SummerSlam where both the United States Championship and Intercontinental title have been on the line on the same show in 5 years, maybe longer? Like, it feels like it's been forever.
Good point. I mean, the IC title was only defended on SmackDown for like a couple of years.
Right. Exactly. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to have this stat for the Backlash instant analysis, which is something I also forgot to mention, and I will mention again later, but we will have a Backlash instant analysis show Saturday as soon as this goes off the air. Anyway, let's go with the rest of the card. Pat McAfee fighting Gunther. Pierce brought out both men for a face-to-face on Raw, demanding there be no violence. Gunther got loud, "You tapped out" chants. This is the first time the Omaha crowd truly came alive all night. It was in the final 30 minutes of the show. McAfee worked Mick Foley-level cheap pops, shouting out Matt Rule, Nebraska football, Omaha Steaks, and the damn College World Series stadium. None of this had anything to do with their storyline or his promo. McAfee said they grew up in different countries and with different backgrounds, but they both grew up dreaming of being professional wrestlers. He said it's still a dream for him, while Gunther is jaded and comfortable because he's been champion 80% of his WWE career. McAfee said this version of Gunther is soft, and he's going to overlook McAfee just like he did Jay and Sammy. Gunther retorted that McAfee got him in the mood and mindset that he needed to be in for Saturday, his first match since WrestleMania, where he won't overlook or underestimate him. He will maul him and choke him out. And he had a great closing line. He said, by Gunther's grace, by my own grace, McAfee is not going to be touched in the ring tonight, but on Saturday, only by the grace of God will his arms be lifted off of his throat. Cold ass shit right there from Gunther. As we said last week, we have criticized McAfee at the announce table of late, but man, when he grabs a live mic and gets in the ring, the dude straight up raises the rent. This was an awesome promo segment. Even if you don't like this match is happening, you got to admit the build has been hot. This is one of Gunther's best promos of the entire last year, and McAfee bringing it out of him, it just speaks to his storytelling ability. As long as WWE gets the booking right on Saturday, I cannot imagine anyone complaining about this match when the final bell rings.
And you actually missed what I think was the most interesting or good line from McAfee was when he said Gunther has been waltering around, which got a reaction.
It was kind of
from the
forced.
crowd.
It did get a reaction though. Yeah.
Very, very nice creative line there, referring to Gunther's old ring name. This was great. This was really solid. It's what we said last week. As frustrated as we can get with McAfee on commentary sometimes, he can cut a hell of a promo. He's a very, very good public speaker. It's why he's gotten where he's at. You do the local shout outs like the College World Series and the Nebraska players to get the crowd amped up and into it and cheering as you then go into Gunther. It was executed very, very well. And Gunther, he felt like he got back to Gunther here. Because in the Jay stuff, he kind of was going back and forth on being unsure, being a bit scared, a lot of stuff going on. He's back focused. And I think that was a great point of the segment. Because if you're McAfee and you do think Gunther is overlooking you and you do think he has gotten too comfortable, you don't tell him that because then he will not overlook you.
Yep.
So, and Gunther basically made that point too. In his response.
Yeah, he's like, you effed up. Yeah, he did.
So I think that was all executed really well. And I'm interested going into this. Like, you wouldn't think on paper, when it first got announced, but they've done a really good job with this.
They have. Who do you think's going to win? I mean, we know who's going to win, but how do you think this match goes?
Gunther is going to destroy Pat McAfee and knock him off of WWE television for quite a while. That is my prediction. Will we see blood? Probably not, because he's probably going to choke him out again. But I think this gets pretty violent, at least hopefully. That'd make it interesting, because that's kind of what they've been kind of selling.
What runtime do you think this gets? How many minutes?
Are we going bell to bell, or are we counting anything post-match?
Bell to bell only.
4 minutes.
Okay. So the two options I see are complete squash, which for me is 3 to 4 minutes, or like 7 to 8 minutes where McAfee gets some offense and gets Gunther off his game, only for Gunther to absolutely annihilate him for a few minutes and toy with McAfee until the bell. I'm of the belief that this gets some time and it gets that type of booking. Outside of the two stupid WrestleMania matches, McAfee has gone 16, 10, and 11 minutes in his other singles matches. This one should go 6, 7, 8 minutes. With, again, McAfee like getting a couple moves early. He hits maybe his moonsault, whatever the case. But then Gunther just like knocks him out with a chop and then toys with his body like a dead fish all the way through the finish until someone ultimately calls the match and they have to stop. I would love to see McAfee completely destroyed, but what you said at the end is key. He absolutely must miss television coming out of this. And it's not because we're bothered with him on commentary. But if you're going to sell this type of beating from a guy like Gunther, you cannot show up the next week. It was okay when McAfee did his own show and then came back the next week on Raw, A, because they were building the match, but B, because all he was is choked out, and that's really just reducing blood to the brain. So he wasn't actively injured where he couldn't go and do his job. This needs to be a kayfabe injury where he cannot go back and do his job. The other element here is that we are expecting a build to begin at some point soon for Gunther and Goldberg, either at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia or more likely SummerSlam, one of the two nights in New York, New Jersey. And I do expect this to be the jumping off point for the Goldberg feud, whether he shows up here or whether he confronts Gunther next week on Raw. One of the two need to happen coming out of this just to kind of get things going for that. But this and directing Gunther away from championship pursuits, that is really the key reason why this is important. And I have a feeling, given especially the reaction that the John Cena, Cody Rhodes main event with Travis Scott, the celebrity involvement there, given the reaction that got, I have every expectation this will be built perfectly at Backlash.
Yes, I think we do get there. Do you think this would knock McAfee if he loses and gets destroyed as we expect? Do we think it would knock him off of his normal daily show or just WWE?
Well, if he's taking a vacation from WWE and the NFL draft is over and there's, 2 months until the NFL season really starts picking up, you would expect that this would also knock him off his main show, that they're planning a vacation.
I would too, but
they haven't announced that though, have they?
Well, no, and also the NBA playoffs are going on and NHL playoffs.
Sure.
And the Indiana Pacers might make a run. And it would be interesting if he was planning to be off the show and the Pacers make some sort of run. He would have to be on. So I don't know. Or maybe he just shows up with a neck brace every day or something. I don't know. But,
yeah, he could sell it like that instead.
It's interesting. But I agree. I do think this happens to then set us up for Goldberg. I actually think Saudi Arabia would make a lot of sense. Like, not that I wanted it to happen. It'd be terrible.
I don't think he wants his retirement match over there.
Probably not. But yeah, I do think we go there.
Yeah, it looks like the last time they had a vacation for the McAfee show was February 11th. So it seems like they do take weeks here and there or 2 week periods off.
He took like a week after the Super Bowl, I think he did.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, it makes sense that this might happen again for a week or two here coming out of the NFL draft and his WWE program. It lines up with the time that would make sense. All right, let's move to what really should be the co-main event of this show. The Women's Intercontinental Championship, Lyra Valkyria defending against Becky Lynch. And I'm now realizing not only are the two men's mid-card titles being defended, this is officially the first ever premium live event in WWE history where 3 mid-card titles are on the line, right? Oh, I guess they had the European Championship back in the day and they had the hardcore title. So maybe that's not completely true, but at least mid-card titles of this prestige. It's the first time that's ever happened before. And it's crazy that of the 4 title matches, 3 of them are mid-card titles that are being defended. And unsurprising that none of them are tag team titles being defended on the show. Anyway, Becky opened hour 2 of Raw, angry that fans were booing her given she's the victim in this entire situation. She admitted that attacking Bayley was doing bad, but she pointed out how fans popped massively for her at WrestleMania, saying all she did was take out the garbage and she deserved thanks for that. Then she shit on Lyra Valkyria for being nothing without her, no drive, no passion, no goals. She wouldn't even have a fiance without Becky. Lyra interrupted, claiming that she had no part in her own success. When she went on vacation, the division got better without Becky, and Lyra made history being the first Intercontinental Champion, which is something Becky did not do. Valkyria got in a shot that she's defended the title more days than Lynch has worked in 2025. That is true, but it can't be that many of a differential. Lyra said she's grateful Becky broke glass ceilings, but she left all the glass on the ground because she never wanted anyone up alongside her. Lynch said her absence allowed others to thrive because it's her job to win matches, and she's the greatest ever to do it. It went back and forth from there, with Becky swinging, Lyra blocking, and a brawl ensuing. Only 3 total referees broke up a fight between these two, but they eventually got back at it, with Valkyria countering Manhandle Slam into Nightwing to stand tall. But the 3 referees that came out to break them up, it just screamed at me how ridiculous, and we talked about this, the fact they needed 40 people to break up Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton on SmackDown like 2 months ago from a similar type of brawl. This was, for me, an immensely interesting segment because fans were firmly behind Lyra in that not a single person booed her. but they were also reluctant to cheer her loudly because there was still a portion that badly wanted to cheer Becky. You could even see some fans like looking for single lines that were not too heelish so that they could pop for her. But Lynch mostly got boos, and Valkyria delivered the better lines. She showed out, and that was Becky's entire goal here. The other interesting part of this segment is that Becky's promo at the start was meant to generate support for Bayley, yet not a single person chanted for her. I'm not positive whether that was because the crowd was crap or just fan sentiment for Bayley is so low, but it was notable. All in all, I'm heavily anticipating this match, and this went a long way to achieving that. Another successful promo segment between Lyra and Becky, with Lynch doing everything she could to allow and help Valkyria to win, which she ultimately did.
These two were in a tough spot, having to basically do this entire story over 3 episodes in 2 weeks from the turn and everything. And they've done the best they could. It's been solid. Lyra is speaking with a lot of confidence, which is like the main key when delivering a promo. It's why LA Knight's good even when he muffles stuff up all the time. The delivery isn't always spot on, but she's so aggressive and confident, it doesn't matter. That's what makes a good promo. That's the foundation of good promo skills. So even if I don't agree with everything she says or this or that, I believe she believes what she's saying.
Right.
And so this was good, solid. Like there's so much more story you could tell between these two. They just didn't have the time to do it. And you've got to shoehorn the Bayley thing in there as well. So, best they could under tough circumstances and a job well done.
That's a great way to put it. And this was also a paradigm of what a veteran wrestler, or really any wrestler, is supposed to do in a promo segment that is meant to get over a younger or newer opponent. Becky just shut up. She dropped her mic to her side. She let Lyra speak unabated. It's the antithesis of what Charlotte did to Tiffy through their entire WrestleMania build. Night and day difference. Becky is not trying to be a cool heel. She doesn't want you to like her. She's trying to get hated. What's crazy is that this character Lynch is playing is diametrically opposed to her true character backstage in wanting to elevate the division. And really, this would have been a better fitting storyline for Stratton and Flair, except, Charlotte would never actually do that.
Yes. Also, Becky doing a good job of trying to make sure she gets booed and not be a cool heel.
Right.
She does at the beginning, her thing when she gets there, the man has come back to Omaha, whatever. But she kind of turned it back around on the crowd and not just doing the thing that gets the cheers. She also made some comments on the Raw recap, taking shots at Bayley and making a joke about Mercedes Monet's texting service that costs $100 a month or something like that. She's really leaning into kind of the real shades of gray side of it and bringing in real stuff into her conversations, which is why she's so good, which is why she is maybe the best female talker we've ever had.
Yeah.
Just top-notch stuff from her as always.
Yeah, her line for Bayley was, Bayley is so confused about this, she's probably paying $100 a month just to have her best friend text her, which is such a great shot at two people who you're actually friends with, where you can get away with saying that, but it seems like it's a real kayfabe dig, or you know what I mean? But in reality, it's just like her having fun with friends that she's probably texting. In fact, she probably sent a clip of it over to them, like, hey, I got you guys. But what was really funny about it is when she said that, she almost made herself laugh because that's such a good line. It's so incredible. And she also had another great comment on that show. And this was completely factual. She said, why is it with the men? There's not this push for all the young talent to get their time in the sun, and there's not angst over CM Punk and Seth Rollins and all these people remaining in the main event. Yet when it comes to the women, no one wants Becky Lynch there because they want Roxanne Perez and they want Lyra Valkyria and all this. Why are you pushing the older women out, but you're not pushing the older men out? Which is completely freaking accurate. But the answer to that I don't think people necessarily want to admit is that WWE has done a real shitty job building younger male talent. They've done an excellent job building younger female talent. So when you're fans and you've seen the same people year after year, if there were people that WWE was fully behind in the men's division, they would probably get some of that same reaction. But the other difference, and this is also really important, is that the older men are completely over still. And while Becky is completely over, unfortunately, Natalya hasn't ever been over, really, for most of her career. Bayley, it ebbs and flows. Sasha Banks, who's the other one along with Becky, who has always been over, she's not there anymore. And Charlotte Flair, people are just exhausted of her because she was booked terribly. So the situations are not analogous. At the same time, she had an incredible point, and she's right.
It is, and we made that point leading into WrestleMania, where it was like they're leaning on too many part-time men, and it's hurting any type of storytelling you're trying to do. Yes, individually, Roman Reigns, love to see him. CM Punk, love to see him. John Cena, love to see him. But when they're all happening at the same time, it does become a bit of a problem.
But even if they didn't lean on the part-timers, and I'm very sorry to interrupt you, like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Penta, these guys are all 40 years old. Where are the 25, 26, 27, 28-year-old, 30-year-old male talents that are in the main event picture? They don't exist.
Right. They're not that young, but the closest would be Cody Rhodes coming back and getting into the main event picture pretty quickly upon showing up.
Like 35 or 36, whatever, however old he was.
Yeah. So,
but still, that's on the other side of 30, though. That's, you know what I mean?
We also have men wrestling into their late 40s, like AJ Styles.
Yes,
in a way that
absolutely.
Didn't used to happen and didn't used to happen with the men and doesn't happen with the women.
Right. So and also, CM Punk just came back and he wasn't there. Penta's brand new. Like, right. but these are the men that they're signing. They're not signing 25-year-old, 30-year-old men to come in and, be the next version of this. They I don't want to use the word wasted because that's not completely true, but they had Finn Balor on the younger side of 30 and didn't use him to the level that he could have been used. They did that with Roman Reigns. They overpushed him. They did successfully do that with Seth Rollins, but those guys have now just become older and they're the same featured people. Randy Orton was featured when he was young. That generation is now kind of moving toward the end of their careers. And the question is, for the women, we see the new crop that are there. We don't really see it for the men. We have Braun Breaker. We have Carmelo Hayes. Austin Theory exists. He's being booked like shit. We have some other people.
Yeah, it's not. Austin Theory's not good.
No, I'm just saying he's younger. I'm just saying he's younger. My point is,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to think, like, in wrestling, who would that person be even outside of WWE?
There's a bunch of them in AEW.
Right. But more than anybody, it's Will Ospreay, a guy who is moving into a main
Swerve
event.
Strickland, Hangman Page, Kyle Fletcher. They got dudes there that are of that younger generation. They do.
Yep.
And WWE either doesn't. I mean, they do have them. Like Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker are legit. Obafemi is going to be a major star. There are young dudes. Don't get it twisted. But they're not being positioned right now in the upper mid card where they can then come up and challenge for the title. Even Jey Uso is 38? Like, he's not young, Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. Anyway, that was like a whole side quest on what we were really talking about here. In terms of a prediction for Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, let's get back to that. If it's a straight up match, Becky should win. If Bayley returns and interferes, then Lyra retaining by far makes the most sense. Given how much Bayley's name has been in Becky's mouth, it really does feel like the latter is going to happen. Yet at the same time, are you really going to do an entire PLE where you're going to do 4 title retentions and a squash or equivalent squash? I don't think you're going to. So here's my prediction. Bayley returns, tries to help Lyra and stop Becky from cheating, accidentally costs Lyra. Becky winds up winning the Intercontinental Championship. You have kind of this 3-way type of feud, and it ends up as Becky and Bayley probably at SummerSlam or something like that. But I have Becky Lynch winning the title with Bayley returning and basically protecting Lyra in that she doesn't lose clean to Becky.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Maybe the only tough one on the card, but I could really see this going either way. My question is just the unknown, which is like, how back is Becky Lynch? Is she back in for a full run? Is she back in for a part-time run? I don't know. If she's going to be around, then I think she wins. But if she's not, I could totally see her coming back to put Lyra over again on the main roster like she did in NXT. I'm going to go Becky and think she hangs around for a bit and that it does build into something more because of all the Bayley stuff. We still have to address Becky Bayley.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes sense to maybe get into triple threat territory or something. So I'm going to go Becky as well.
I thought you were going to take Lyra and we'd have a different one, but fair enough.
It's tough. It's tough.
It is. I can see it going both ways. It's the only match where I'm not sure of the outcome on the show.
Yes.
Let's move to the main event, the WWE Championship. John Cena defending against Randy Orton one last time. Orton opened hour 3 of SmackDown, getting an incredible pop as usual. He said he's known about Cena's entitlement for a while, which drew straight Cena sucks chants. No let's go Cena's at all. And that was a key thing to note this week. We mentioned it from Raw. The crowd was back to normal crowd, not kind of protest, cheering the heels type of crowd. Orton called Cena the ultimate shiny new toy to be played with by the ultimate puppet master, referring to Vince McMahon. Not much of a reaction to that. He said Cena took advantage of the PG era by becoming a cartoon character selling merchandise out of his ass, while Orton remained authentic. Orton said Cena's been selling his soul for 20 years, and he refused to let him erase his family's history. Instead, Cena will just be the latest legend he's got to put down with an RKO punt kick to his Lego-shaped head. Orton's promo game, it has gotten crazy strong over the last few years. He truly understands himself and his character better than ever before, probably since the start of the pandemic. He has been crushing it on the mic, but particularly lately as a babyface, which is crazy because he's one of the most dastardly heels ever based on the shit that he actually did. This did a great job amping up the intensity for their feud. It closed the loop on some, not all, but some of the stuff that we discussed from last week, feeling like it wasn't completely tied together with Cena and Orton. It is nuts how the WWE crowd never responds to veiled references. The WrestleMania weekend fans would have popped huge for that Cena McMahon suggestion, but for a week without Cena on TV, this got the job done, and the fake real juxtaposition Orton created between them, I thought it was pretty perfect, all things considered.
Yeah, this was solid. It was the best you could, consider on a short turnaround, and he just has to cut the promo in the ring himself. My biggest complaint about this whole build, which is not Randy's fault, I guess it's Cena's fault, was that there's been so little time for them to talk about the immense history they have with each other. I do credit WWE for over the last couple of weeks throwing back to these different matches that they've had.
Right.
They on one of these shows, they did the 2014 title unification match.
Mm-hmm.
They did their first SummerSlam match. Like, there's so much, and they're telling us that throughout the show with various histories. But I want Cena and Orton to talk to each other about that. If this is really the last time they are ever going to wrestle, this is one of the most storied rivalries in wrestling history. And they didn't get into that in their first one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Not much. Couldn't do it this time because Cena wasn't there.
Yeah, they talked about fatherhood. Their 3 segments have been fatherhood, then Orton by himself, and now the go home 24 hours before the show.
And so I think there's a real chance. Well, I don't know. They're probably not going to use one of Cena's dates on a go home, are they?
No, he's there.
Backlash?
He's going to be there Friday. No, he'll be there Friday.
Oh, no, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He is good. Yeah, they did say he will be there. So I'm hoping we really get the best of both of them in one of these promo segments, because I've said it before, but that segment they had before the unification match in 2014, the one that got hijacked with Daniel Bryan, was incredible. And I really hope we get that out of these two guys. The rivalry deserves it. The history between them deserves it. But a 3-week build just is not enough time to do that, especially when Cena doesn't show up for one of them.
Yeah.
So solid job by Orton, all things considered. It's also interesting. He didn't say legend killer. He said you're the last legend, the last legend or latest legend I'm going to have to put down.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying that. But he implied, we're going to try to get back to that. So finished really strong. I just wish everything else around it was better. Hopefully we get something on Friday.
No, you're right. This was a one last time rivalry and feud. That's what they're doing here. That's the entire connotation of Cena Orton at Backlash in St. Louis in front of Randy's family. The first week,
which by the way, they haven't actually they just said it one day. They didn't even have Orton and Cena say it to each other. Why is it the last time? Cena could have said, "This is your last chance ever. I will never wrestle you again."
Absolutely should have, and maybe will Friday. You're right. They should have said that.
Yeah.
And Cena should have said. In fact, he should have said 2 weeks ago on his promo, "We're not going to do it tonight or whatever the case. I'm going to give you the opportunity you want, me in front of your hometown, so I can embarrass you, and it'll be the last time you ever challenge for the WWE Championship." Instead of that, this is what the build has been. Week 1, RKO out of nowhere. Fine. Week 2, let's talk about fatherhood. Week 3, Orton promo by himself. And now week 4, go home. We don't know. Obviously, that's going to come on Friday. But for a last time ever feud, you got to be way, way deeper than that. And to your point, yeah, the video packages have been great. And clearly, the video package at Backlash, and probably the one that they show on the Go Home SmackDown, those will probably storytell their entire feud. But you should be injecting some of that into the actual verbal storyline that they're slinging at one another. And the fact that they haven't done that and now only have one chance to do it 24 hours before the show, it is immensely disappointing. There's no other way that you can state that. Now, quickly before we get to a prediction, R-Truth found Orton backstage. He was supporting Cena still, saying that Orton had no chance against him and that his childhood hero would beat him at Backlash. Jimmy Uso tried to calm Truth down, telling Orton, hey, you know how he can be. But Truth said Cena told him that he's the last real champion and he wouldn't lie to him. So it does seem like they're going to do something with Truth, which would be hugely positive for heel Cena if it gets executed properly. And it would probably be a lot of fun if they go full-on betrayal in the ring in front of the crowd. It should really be executed Festival of Friendship style, in that Cena lures Truth into believing he actually appreciates his friendship and support, only to absolutely destroy him. So I hope that happens. But whatever they do with Truth, and whatever they do on the Go Home with Cena, and whatever they do at Backlash, this is a second chance for WWE. Because the start of Cena's, championship run and heel turn, it has not been up to expectation. The initial heel turn was great. There have been individual moments. The 2 promo segments with Cody Rhodes have been awesome. But in totality, it really is not landing. This with Orton and Truth to a degree is a legitimate second chance for them to kind of push all that aside and say, this guy is going to be a piece of shit as a heel, and this is the way we're going to go forward.
Yeah, we were frustrated last week that Cena didn't do anything with Truth backstage, but the fact that they've brought Truth back a second time tells me they are going to do something, which will be good. But yeah, when you only have limited dates with Cena, there's limited opportunities for him to really be a heel. So you got to make him count instead of talking about fatherhood.
Now, in terms of this match, Chris, I think we can both agree that they're not going to have the last real champion, John Cena, lose in his first defense to Orton, who certainly doesn't need the championship. So we're both going to pick that Cena will retain the title here. The question is going to be how they book the match and what level of quality the match delivers. I have a weird suspicion, and it may be misplaced, and I hope it is. Or maybe I don't hope, because it could be great. But I wonder if they call back to No Way Out 2008. Because what happened in the match, at the end of that match, is that Orton slapped the referee and retained the title, screwing Cena out of the opportunity to beat him for the championship. With Cena now a heel, and it being in Orton's hometown, they could absolutely do that again. Now, in 2025, fans would reject it because this is not 2008, and this WWE is not that WWE. But the way they could do it, if they want to call back to that, is you either have Nick Aldis come out and restart the match, or the referee just smacks Cena right back in the face, and everything continues. So you get the shock value of the moment and the awesome callback, but you don't get the bullshit finish. I have no idea if they're going to do it, but Cena slapping the referee that way, it would pop me massively, again, as long as it's not the actual end to the match. All of that said, it doesn't necessarily matter how they book it. Cena is going to win and retain the title, but what matters from the booking is that it's quality and takes some of the sour taste out of our mouths that is still kind of lasting from WrestleMania 41.
The thing about Cena Orton and their history is that their history also includes a lot of boring matches.
Not good. Yeah.
It was not the best stuff. I was out of wrestling at the time when they were really at their peaks. I have gone back and watched it. I love the idea of a callback there. I love the idea of a lot of callbacks, but we need commentary to make sure they really sell us on that too and remind us and tell us that.
Mm-hmm.
Normally you would think, oh, Orton Cena, we're going to get a 30-minute boring, nothingness for a while. And you're also thinking, well, Cena just tried to wrestle the most boring match possible against Cody Rhodes as part of his character.
Well,
so
I wouldn't say he tried to wrestle a boring match. He his character tried to deliberately take him apart. Like he wasn't trying to break kayfabe and do a boring match.
No,
to
but
be bad.
he was not doing the 5-knuckle shuffle. You know, he was doing things slower.
Yes.
He was being more methodical, even
Yes.
more than normal. So that matched up with Randy Orton does not scream amazing match.
It does not bell to bell.
So does Orton kind of lead it? I don't know. So very curious how it goes. I imagine they will have a lot of time, even though Cena's not in normal wrestling shape and they're older.
Mhm.
If it is the last time, you got to give him time. Cena wins. I don't know how, but it has to be nefarious in some form.
Absolutely. No question about that. So that wraps up our WWE Backlash Ultimate preview. And of course, before we get out of here, Chris, we will share our pre-show expectation grades. Now, again, something I forgot to mention at the start of the show. I usually run through all of this, but we wanted to get right into the program as quickly as possible. You all will be able to vote and share your pre-show and post-show grades for WWE Backlash on Saturday. We'll post the pre-show poll about an hour before the show. We'll post the post-show poll immediately after it goes off the air. Just make sure you're following us on Twitter at Getting Overcast. But as mentioned, we will be posting highlights and clips, episode drops, all that great stuff, news and analysis on Blue Sky as well, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. So, Chris, what is your pre-show expectation grade for WWE Backlash?
I'm going to go B+. I don't think anything on the show is bad. I'm actually looking forward to all of it.
Mhm.
But I don't know if we're going to have a lot of great matches. I don't think we're going to have a ton of like changing moments.
Mhm.
And I don't think we're going to have many, if any, title changes. So on a 5-match card, it's really hard to get that into A territory, A- territory, and this doesn't. So B+.
Yeah, I think both from an expectation standpoint and from a delivery standpoint, it's going to be real difficult for this to be an A, flat A. They could probably get into A- territory. That would be like the ceiling for this show. But coming into it, look, it's been a short build. We mentioned it. It's been, I don't want to say a rough build because that's not fair, but it's not as deep of a build as you would want for a premium live event that you're going to invest extra time on a weekend to watch. And to your point, I don't know that any of the matches are going to be great. I believe Lyra and Becky has the greatest chance to stand out and be what we rate as the highest match at the end of the show. And certainly the United States Championship has an opportunity to do that as well. But Becky and Lyra is where I'm like, if I had to put all my money, like if we're playing roulette and it was based on which match is going to be the best, I put all my money onto them. So I'm actually lower than you coming into this. And we don't really hit this mark often, but I'm at a B as a pre-show expectation grade for Backlash. I'm going to be at an 86 out of 100. Extremely easy for WWE to exceed that expectation and hit a B+, and certainly plenty of room to go and hit an A-. We know that WWE PLEs historically, even when they're not built well, they deliver far above expectation, at least on average. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm sitting here Saturday, I'm saying, oh yeah, that was a 90, 91 out of 100. Very possible. But coming into it, I just can't say that I'm that juiced. So I'm at an 86, a B. What's your numerical grade for your B+?
I'm glad you did that because I made the point on here a while ago that everything is kind of A-, A, B+ range, and we needed to kind of spread that out.
Mm-hmm.
I was more doing that on the post-show rather than the pre-show. So I'm glad you did that. We need to talk B.
Well, that's how I feel
more often.
This scream. I mean, despite John Cena and Randy Orton main eventing, other than that, this screams B show. Not just in terms of like designation, but grade. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So are you at what, like
I'll go
87, 88?
You're at 86. I'll go 88.
Okay.
Kind of right in the middle there.
All right. Well, again, we will have a pre and post show poll posted on Twitter at Getting Overcast. You can vote in that, and we will incorporate your grades into our WWE Backlash Instant Analysis podcast, which will be published Saturday shortly after the show goes off the air. You absolutely do not want to miss our instant analysis. If you happen to be a first-time listener, consider subscribing to us right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, wherever you're currently listening to the show, and certainly on every podcast platform. On the way out, Chris, allow me to remind everyone that this show
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King and Vintage. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. And please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We will be back on Thursday talking NXT and AEW, and then Saturday with your WWE Backlash instant analysis. Make sure you subscribe and listen to all of the shows right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And don't forget, in our feed, we have a bonus show that we posted last weekend on the surprising WWE releases that were handed down Friday right before SmackDown went on the air. Bonus show in our podcast feed. Wrapping it up for Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King Adam Silverstein signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.